I am EC3. I am a man.
This guy continues and continues to amaze me.
I'm the greatest wrestler in the world.
I'm pretty sure Ishii is held together by cement.
I wasn't supposed to win championships and get to the top of every company I've ever walked into, but I have.
This has to be one of the greatest matches I've ever watched in my life.
Because the Bullet Club, we rule the world.
Sami, what an exciting moment that had to be for you. I'm sure you could hear the reaction from the WWE Universe. For lack of a better term, your re-debut on Raw.
Yeah, a re-debut is a funny way to put it, but yeah, part of what made tonight so special is just the fact that I got to sort of feel like I was picking up where I left off, and it's been a really difficult 9 months, and part of the reason it was so difficult was because, you know, sitting on the sidelines is one thing, but then sitting on the sidelines and watching your enemy, for lack of a better term, and Kevin Owens leapfrog you and then go on to be this dominant champion on Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-view, you know, every month is a very bitter pill to swallow. So, God, it felt good getting a little payback tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the mat.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Deezer.
Hello and welcome to Wrestling Max episode 186, and we are the Every Wrestling Fan podcast, and of course, we are brought to you by the W2M Network, which is located on where podcasts are everywhere, and of course, YouTube channel as well, and of course, we are in partnership with LastWordOnSports.com and 4mania.com. Gary, take it away.
We are excited today because we have a great one for you this week. We are going to talk some WrestleMania, not just WrestleMania 32, WrestleMania 33 as well. I know it's looking far into the future, but we already have a logo, a location, and some other interesting things that are going to be built in that location as well. Maybe a Hall of Fame, a physical one. We'll talk about that. Plus, we're going to get into some other interesting news about WWE maybe making some more signings, international signings at that. Plus, we're going to get into some other discussions and quick hits, so you don't want to miss any of the big topics we have. Plus, guys, we are going to jump into some Monday Night Raw, some NXT, where NXT actually has one match, but we're going to get into some big topics in that as well, because Vince McMahon himself has kind of hinted that he's not a fan of NXT still, and some other things that come into play. Maybe even a little bit of a feud between him and Triple H behind the scenes. We're also going to talk some Lucha Underground, a big match in that one you're not going to want to miss. Plus, we're going to get into some TNA Impact, where Kurt Angle has his last match on that product. And, of course, you got to round it out with Ring of Honor this week, alongside what we love to do at the end of the show, and that is crown a Superstar of the Week. So we've got a big show for you, a lot of great things to talk about. But before we get into all that and all the other fun stuff we got to tell you guys this week, we got to stop and just take a minute. And, I love to do this because we kind of find out what each of us are doing or what's on our minds. There's one thing on my mind, guys, and it's kind of interesting because this is an old thing, but I just recently watched True Insider, which True TV has started doing, going into movies, breaking them down, talking about how they were made. The first one I saw was Airplane, and I love Airplane. It was one of my favorite movies. This is back in 1980, before I was even born. But I loved the movie as a kid, still love the movie, have the DVD. And watching that just rekindled my love for it. I don't know about you guys, but I love stuff like that. I love getting a chance to see stuff that's old, but still so great that it can last all the way to 2016 from 1980. I mean, have you guys seen that movie? Do you enjoy it?
Airplane?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it. Airplane's one of my favorite movies. Sadly, not all movies from the 1980s can stand the test of time. Several of them appear very dated. Airplane, however, is timeless. That's what's so great about it.
I'm a fan of Airplane as well. I have other 80s movies that I like a little bit more than Airplane, but the all those 16 Candles and all those kind of movies that are kind of together in that, the Ferris Bueller's and all that junk. But, I mean, it's seriously, there's a reason why all this 80s stuff is coming back now. It was a great time, So,
Oh yeah.
I'm a
big fan.
I mean, thinking about it, it's just it's amazing like how much like stuff that you think about, and all these other people will say, "Oh, we came up with that," and you go, "No, you didn't. This existed when we were kids, or when we used to do the same thing with our parents too, and we never thought we'd get to that point, and here we are."
I know. I'm sorry to thinking, man, when my daughter's old enough, she's going to sit down beside me and watch Airplane. And I'm sure my dad at the same point had some movies, like Clint Eastwood, John Wayne movies he wanted to show me probably eventually. So it's kind of cool. You're right, Sean, how it all rounds out and all that. And, I'm just inspired now after watching that whole thing, the true insight on Airplane to get me one of those cool blow-up dolls. That was pretty awesome.
Oh, jeez.
But anyway, and I'm not talking about anything else. I know everybody else, But anyway, we're going to talk about something else, though, real quick. Paul, I mean, we talked about your Broncos not long ago, but, man, I am so sorry to hear one of the guys that was going to be the face of the organization turn heel on you guys and bolted off to the Texans. What is your franchise going to do at quarterback now, man?
Nothing like thinking you have the next big thing lined up, and then he says, "Well, I'm out of town, guys." There's rumors of Colin Kaepernick. I've heard Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know. I'm just sad, Gary. I'm just sad.
I know. Hey, I didn't feel that much pain, but when I saw Lamar Miller sign with the Texans as well, I kind of felt some heart struggle because that was my guy. I wanted him to come to the Cowboys. Didn't happen. That's the way free agency works in this world. But Sean, I mean, what's going on with you, man? I know you've been doing 100 different things. What's going on in your world?
Just working and doing all the normal things I do. Nothing too special this week other than just the kid is continuously getting more and more homework. So now I have to sit there with her and do homework, and it's one of those things like, man, it's a moment in time that you go, oh, they're finally grown, they're getting homework now, and you're just kind of like, oh God, now I remember why I hated this. It's so boring. Especially when they're 5. They're just doing letters and colors and stuff that's like, man, if only they just got this like I do right now. I
know. It's just one of those where, you try to be patient, you try to get through it. My daughter's not as old as yours, but, I completely understand. We try to teach, me and my wife do. My wife primarily because she's the educator, really. Right. But going through the whole thing and just really watching her learn is great. But at the other point, it's like, you had this down. You could count 1 to 20, and now all of a sudden you're skipping numbers in between 1 and 7. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I was just kind of like, man, what that is. Just, I mean, it's amazing because she can read, and she can read things, and then I'll look at this and go, you can't read that? I mean, you just read it yesterday. I mean, It's so funny with kids like that.
It is. That's the world of kids, so. Man, well, all of us seem to be doing pretty good this week. I'm excited about what we're going to do this week on the podcast. So why don't we get into it, guys? Let's go ahead and jump into some of those quick hits. We'll do that next.
Love it when I'm not on the page it's supposed to be. Hold on.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
Go for it.
All right, guys. Let's go ahead and start out with what I kind of made mention of earlier, and we're going to start with WrestleMania. And WrestleMania 33 was announced to be taking place in Orlando, Florida next year, and which that's really exciting. We've heard rumors back and forth, where it was going to be, but we kind of heard Orlando was a strong candidate. And this is good for many reasons. We'll kind of spread on to another reason why it's good, but I think that as we've seen, honestly, in the wrestling world, Florida's been a hotbed has been for a long time. This isn't new, but still at this point, it really is. We've had, I don't know how many WrestleManias in Miami, with 2 in 10 years?
No, it's
so
Orlando and then Miami within 4 years.
Oh, was it? Okay,
Yep.
so I know, well, Sean,
So-
didn't you have? Okay.
So basically, it's been like almost 10 years since Orlando had one. So they would
Okay.
have, or 9. They had 24, and then now they're having 33, and then Miami had 28. So
28. Okay. Well, there you go. But still, it shows that, they really do, like that area. Of course, they have an NXT down there located. It's a big deal.
it's almost like their second home base now, instead of, I know a lot of people, like, they live in Tampa and all that kind of stuff or whatever, but, like, it used to be everything was in the Northeast and the Connecticut, New York area, and now it's almost like Orlando is like that home for them now.
Yeah, you're right. It is interesting. And, I think it's kind of cool, but at the same point, I know the people out west probably wish, why can't you be closer over here? And, of course, us in the Midwest, we kind of feel the same way. We're like, man, come on, move closer over here. But here's another cool thing. They've been talking about this for quite a while, but apparently WB has decided they're going to build a physical Hall of Fame and restaurant in Orlando, Florida, and it is actually going to be placed on the what is it, Sean? City Walk out there, and it is a pretty nice place. It's a nice area. My sister has told me many times how much I need to go there and visit and go down that walk and go see all the stores and restaurants and shops. And it's across the street from Universal Studios. But WB is going to be taking over NBA City. So that's the location. If you've ever been there where the NBA City has been located, is exactly where that Hall of Fame is going to be. I just think this is great. We've been talking about this for a long time. Sean, I remember way back, it was probably episode 20 of this podcast, we were talking about this possibly happening. Now it's finally going to happen. What do you guys think about this? Paul, I mean, is this kind of cool? I mean, if you're able to make Orlando next year, you may actually get to go to a Hall of Fame.
I mean, that is really, really neat. And, I mean, ultimately, it would help make it feel like it means a bit more, because now you have a place to put all this stuff that you have, and you have, a place where people can go and see all this great stuff. I mean, and then, I mean, not to mention the sort of things you could do. Like, you have Hall of Fame night where you just stream or show a bunch of matches at the building or whatever. I mean, it's a really neat idea that I think could have a lot of use for WWE in the long run.
I mean, this is really cool because it's the fact that, now it feels legitimate, right? Like Paul said, now it feels like a Hall of Fame, and now I think people can start complaining a little bit more about who's not in there and stuff like that, because this is a physical thing that you're going to, and I think we shouldn't sell the restaurant short, because let's be honest here, unlike the other Hall of Fames, this isn't something that you're going to go to a bunch of times, probably. This is something you might go to once, maybe twice, depending on what, if WWE is able to do a bunch of different exhibits, then okay, yeah, But the restaurant, I think, is going to be the thing that's going to keep bringing people back. They did have this in the, WWF New York or whatever, and hopefully, because it's in Orlando, much more touristy city, less expenses than, say, New York or whatever, they can keep it running. And, because restaurants are not the easiest thing to, as Hulk Hogan himself would be able to tell you, after he had to, have that thing, basically, nobody can be in it because it apparently shifts and moves. So, hopefully WWE doesn't have that problem.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is just one of those things where WB is going to try to redo what they did in New York, and just kind of make a place where hopefully will become a hub, a hotbed of people wanting to be there, coming around. Possibly that restaurant will have, pay-per-views airing, kind of Paul was saying, to showing matches, different things like that, that'll keep the buzz going, and it won't be just dropping off the map and people just kind of forgetting about it after the first 5 years that people have seen it. So I just think it's very positive. Many people have said, it's just not the same without a physical location. The Hall of Fame needs to be a building. It needs to have things in it to kind of show it is a Hall of Fame, and now they're going to have that, finally. So I think it's a positive thing for WrestleMania 33. This is even better because you're going to have all the people from all around the world getting a chance to see it firsthand. It's going to get so much traffic, it's not funny. I don't even know if I would really want to go that first year because I'm sure that place is going to be packed to the gills. I'll probably have to actually have security, making sure people don't, cause any fire code hazards. But, we're talking about the Hall of Fame. Let's talk about the fact that officially on Monday night, we got the big boss man being the next inductee of the Hall of Fame, Ray Traylor. I am so excited about this because I was a big fan of his in WCW, and of course in his work during the Attitude Era and WWF. And not just him. There was also some unofficial releases that we're going to have some more Hall of Famers. We'll have 2, in fact, and that should round out the rest of this Hall of Fame class, being Jacqueline and Stan Hansen, which are both great names. I think both deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. We kind of got into this a little bit on Sunday night when I kind of did a run-in on the New Japan special you guys had. But let's kind of give our thoughts out here because some people may not have heard that discussion. What do you think about this, Sean? Are you excited about any of these Hall of Famers?
Oh, well, of course. I think, Big Boss Man never gets enough credit, I think, for, the feud he had with Hogan and for just being mobile for his size. And he made that gimmick work. Let's think about how dumb the gimmick could have been, and he makes it work. And, Jacqueline was an innovator, obviously, for the women's division, and she's from Texas, so that's cool, obviously. And Stan Hansen, obviously, big, huge. He is probably the most popular foreigner ever in, Japan. And that's, I think what matters the most is obviously he has WCW ties and all that kind of stuff. But what's cool is that WWE is sort of honoring a guy that has really almost nothing to do with American wrestling. It's a lot of what he did in Japan is what he's famous for, and they're honoring him for that.
Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, Big Boss Man, a tremendous big man wrestler. I think super agile for how large he was. Sean mentioned his work with Hogan. I mean, I'll always appreciate him for the work he did so late in his career for the hardcore division. That certainly became a very entertaining fixture on Raw for years during the Attitude Era. Even before. I enjoyed him as Big Bubba Rogers on WCW as well. So. Jackie, a terrific wrestler, a very prominent manager in Smoky Mountain Wrestling before she made her way to WWE and out in Memphis. Long wrestling ties there. And then, of course, we talked about Stan Hansen a whole ton on the New Japan special. But the dude's a legend, hard worker, and one of the toughest men I've ever seen in the wrestling ring. Just couldn't be more well deserved there.
Jacqueline also spent time in TNA. Different times.
We don't need to talk about that.
Ain't got time for that, right? No, you guys said it all, really. I'll just say this. Stan Hansen definitely deserves it, no matter how much time, honestly, he spent with WWE. I just think everything he's done has meant a lot to the wrestling business in general, so he deserves his spot. Jacqueline, just great worker. No matter who you put her with, she was going to do a great job and make the other person look pretty well herself. So I think definitely deserves. Of course, Dallas native, that's a big deal too. She's going to get a pretty nice pop, I think, when she gets to Dallas. Big Boss Man, like I said, WCW, I remember him heavily there. I loved his work, even in WWF when he, did some other things. And, I think he's a great cook.
Stop watching WCW?
Yeah. Well, no, he didn't. But, that was big Bam Bam Bigelow.
Sorry.
Yeah, not Big Boss Man. Yeah, but just saying, Big Boss Man's a great cook. Al Snow can contest to that. So hopefully we'll get some discussion on that also at the Hall of Fame. So anyway, but
I wonder
that's
if they'll
great.
let Al Snow show up at the Hall of Fame.
That'd be awesome. But WB would probably have to make a trade again, like they kind of did with Christian.
Oh, Christian. What is the? Who can they gonna send Jacqueline back over to TNA for a segment?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't know. Bully Ray's gonna come back for a segment.
No, what they'll probably do is they'll send Titus O'Neil. So
Maybe. Maybe Titus O'Neil just go by himself.
yeah. Talking about Titus O'Neil. Well, hold on. Before we talk about Titus O'Neil, I want to mention one more thing. We're talking about WrestleMania and the Hall of Fame and all the things surrounding. Just got to mention one thing real quick. WB has broken their ticket sales record, and they have actually sold 84,000 tickets to WrestleMania 32 so far. That is cool. That is something that they've really wanted to do, get these numbers up, which they are going up. They still got to get to that 100,000 to do what they want to do. But that's a positive sign. And plus, thinking about that, their previous record was 79,000. So, and that was like SummerSlam back. Oh, I don't know. I forget the time
one
period.
was in England.
SummerSlam from Wembley. Yeah, back in 92.
92.
And then, of course, the Silver Dome, WrestleMania 3, was the one here. So, which was not 93,000, even though they're gonna inflate that number a little bit.
Exactly. So, but that's congratulations to WWE. At least they did a good job so far. Hopefully, they can sell more tickets at WrestleMania 32. But let's talk about Titus O'Neil. We've heard Batista weigh in on this. Batista, of course, said that Titus O'Neil should leave the company. He feels like it's the best thing for him. He can go be successful somewhere else. It looks like Titus O'Neil may actually be following that advice. He's kind of mentioned that he's going to write out the rest of his contract. He's going to basically do whatever they ask him to do. Just, hey, earn that money that they said that he could have until that contract's over. And then he's possibly out of there. He also said that he is, going to respect the punishment. He's going to take it like a man and just get through it. So, Paul, do you see this being a situation where we're really honestly going to see Titus O'Neil leave? Or do you think this is just some people reading into too much?
I don't think he's gonna leave. I really don't. WWE might not be making use of his talents right now, but I certainly think that is the best place for him to succeed. And I'm sure TNA or somebody out there would pick him up if he did leave. And that's not to say he can't succeed elsewhere. I don't think he's gonna find a place that better suits his talents than WWE.
Sean, this is a situation where I agree with Paul. Wrestling-wise, there's no better place than WWE. But he's also mentioned in the past that he has an open door to Florida to go back and maybe coach there and be an assistant coach. What do you think that could be a possibility?
I said this when the original stuff was coming up about his issue. The dude can be on ESPN. He can be on talk shows. He's so well-mannered and so he is the modicum of what you want your guy to be, your superstar to be. Look at all the stuff with the homeless, shelters he's done. Honestly, WWE's losing a great person they can put out there as far as, your Be a Star campaign, all your other charity stuff. Let's forget about the, the in-ring stuff, which obviously, he wants to be champion one day. He wants to be a big deal, but to me, depending on when his deal is up, which seems like the only reason he would even be saying this would be that it's up soon. You still don't know where TNA is going to be at that point. Just with Titus, I don't know. We kind of talked about that with Wade Barrett. It's possible he can go to like ROH or something, but I just don't know. I don't see if he does something, it won't be in wrestling. He'll be doing something else.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if he does leave the world of wrestling, which I think would be WWE once he ends that, I think I could see him moving on, like you're saying, Sean. I hope he doesn't. I hope Paul's right. I hope he stays with WWE. I hope they work things out. I hope they can get past it because he's such a great talent. I know he hasn't reached a potential maybe where the fans want him or even maybe with the officials want him in WWE. I just think he's got that potential to be a major player in this business. It's just hopefully he can get over that hump, and hopefully the heat that he's created for himself, that can slide away. There's all sorts of rumors. I think part of this is rumors. Part of this is some truth. That's the way that some of this news comes
he's
out.
He's doing it because he came out and accepted his whole, that whatever happened to him, he understands he did wrong, and that's at least what it's saying publicly, and then he kind of just said that at the end that he's thinking about leaving.
Yeah. I mean, I think people in his situation have to consider that, have to think about that. Those thoughts have to run to their mind because they have to have something post-wrestling. We're just kind of seeing the same thing with Lana, because Lana has been under heat. We know that. Now you're getting a chance to see her more. Now she's going to be in the ring. Rumors are still going around. Now you got more heat, apparently, but that's just rumors. We don't know for a fact what the heat's about. Apparently she's got more of it, though. Saying all that, I don't know what you want to say about it, but I know this. She's actually got her own YouTube channel out there right now, and she's starting a new show called Sisters with one of her friends, and she's beginning to do that a little bit. And I think she's.
I mean, they can't really get mad about that because Emma has that Taste of Tennille thing, and there's a couple other ones that have their own. Xavier Woods with his deal. So, you're letting Xavier Woods run around doing all the stuff he does. You cannot get mad at anybody else for having their own YouTube thing.
And not to get off topic, but don't you think Zack Ryder's sitting there saying to himself, this is not cool. You guys hated me for doing this. Now everybody else is doing it, and it's great?
The thing is, I don't think that you can say that Emma's not getting over with the wrestling fans because she's doing Taste of Tennille. Xavier Woods is obviously, gaming and wrestling go with each other, but they're actually using that to sort of show other sides of the wrestlers, not enhance their wrestling characters. So that's where I think they get away with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, there are times I wonder if Xavier Woods isn't using Up, Up, Down, Down as an extension of the New Day, but, I mean, it's complicated. I don't see a big problem with any of the stuff with Lana on the extracurriculars until it starts interfering with what she's doing in the ring, and maybe that's where the heat is coming from, is that she's taken on all these other projects. But I just where do they keep coming up with all this idea that she's getting heat because she barely has time to be on TV? They barely use her.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's the whole. We know she does stuff with Rusev's Twitter. Like, some of the stuff where she makes fun of dirt sheet stuff, that has to be Lana. I can't imagine that's only Rusev. So, perhaps something there, but I don't know. When you've got, it's so funny the contrasting, like, okay, that gets you heat, but you got Matt Hardy being a total jerk on Twitter, and everybody apparently just... He totally. If I was a TNA fan and I ran into Matt Hardy on Twitter, I would not want to go to a TNA show. Whereas even on Twitter, the WWE guys don't act like that, even if they're heel. Owens will joke around, but I think most of the people that know Owens know he's doing that because you're being a jerk, so he's being a jerk back to you. But everybody else, they kind of just are sort of prim and proper when it comes to social media. So it's so weird. Lana's kind of in her own little world there where she kind of pokes fun at things, and you have to wonder if that. I just can't imagine anything else, because what the hell else, like Paul says, she doing that's going to get her in trouble? Is like Vince still mad about the engagement thing?
Probably. He's probably
Jesus.
like, that's not fair. Why does Rusev get to be with her? Things like that. Probably go.
Some golden boy that I had ready to go should be with Lana right now. Like, just, whatever.
Or himself. He's probably thinking.
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to know. That's gross.
You never know. But, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, like I said, rumors and things like that fly around. I think that's what we, get out of the news sometimes.
How about that X Factor, though?
It's a stolen... move. You can't really use it, right? I mean, that's not her finisher.
Hey, she did it better. She did it better than Velvet Sky.
Yeah.
I enjoy Larry's description of it. Diva finisher number 4.
Yeah.
Poor X-Pac.
Yeah, his move is now the Diva finisher.
I know. The X Factor has been womanized, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Gender equality is on this show.
Yeah, I mean, they did it with the Bronco Buster, too.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Mae Young was friggin' doing.
Hey, yeah. So there you go. Some other great news coming out, and this is something that I just can't wait to mention, and I'm excited when this actually happens. The signatures are done, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, but Lucha Underground is going to head to Netflix, and season 1 will be the first thing on that. I think this is great, smart, and something that has been needing to happen for quite a while. Sean, I mean, once this is supposedly going to happen, so I'm just pretending like this is already done. When this happens, how much do you think this is going to affect Lucha Underground? Is this going to be a really positive effect, or do you think it's going to be stagnant?
Oh, I think this is going to be a big thing because they're the only wrestling, they're the only wrestling thing on Netflix now because WWE doesn't have stuff on Netflix anymore. And they're also not a wrestling promotion, so you can just sit there and literally watch episodes of Lucha Underground and just watch it for what it is. You can watch episode 1 and go, okay, do I want to keep watching episode 2 or not? It's not like you're trying to get 50 episodes of Raw on there, and they're all sort of, it's one of those hit or miss things. So I think this is great because they're the only thing that can work on Netflix, and if they get it, then who knows? Sky's the limit for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great move for them. I feel kind of silly for buying the season 2 season pass on iTunes now, but maybe I shouldn't be mad about giving the company money.
I think you're right about it because they're not going to get season 2 on there until around when season 3 comes on.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's either you give them the money now or you wait till freaking January of 2017 to watch all of Lucha Underground. So.
Yeah, that'd be a little bit too long to wait. But yeah, I mean, I think this is awesome. I think this is going to hopefully help them even more, get them people introduced to this product, and hopefully, hey, they'll catch on El Rey. Maybe they'll do like Paul's doing and get it on iTunes. That's a really positive thing. It kind of will help that brand grow, and it's already expensive. That brand spends so much money. Each episode is a ridiculous amount of money to film. This would be positive. This is something we could prove to people that, hey, this kind of product is going to work. It's enjoyable. I mean, all of us enjoy it to death. I mean, this is one of our favorite products, and I hope that more people can see it and understand why we think it's so great. So it's a good thing. We'll have to see what happens.
Like you said, Gary, it's a great launching pad for, oh, I watched this. Oh, wait, there's a season 2? Oh, I can buy it for this? Okay. And it's still going? Cool. Like, it's just, I think it can, I know Apple's probably not that big a fan of it, but it can only lead to positive things for them. I cannot imagine that it's going to be a negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope not. I don't think it would be. One more thing before we jump into some rapid hits real quick, guys. I want to bring this up, and I think this deserves a little bit more time. This is interesting. We're hearing that there's a possibility that the New Day will be turning face after Roadblock. And we'll do our predictions later of Roadblock. We got that coming for everybody after Raw. But before we get there, this is something that I think is interesting, and something that I think definitely it makes sense. Pre-show, Sean and I were kind of discussing this, and Sean said, hey, they've basically been a face for a long time because people pop for them, they cheer for them. I completely agree. But on the other hand, I love heel New Day. I love the fact that they're poking fun and they can go against people and Big E can wave his at people. I like that. Paul, I mean, what do you think about this? Do you think this is the right move before WrestleMania?
I don't know. Maybe. I think it's wow, my mind just went blank on me. Sean, go.
This is one of those things that it doesn't really necessarily matter because, you, again, look at the crowds they're going to be in front of for these Raws. Look at WrestleMania, who's going to be there. They're going to be faces. There wasn't even like that big a AJ Styles chance during that match on Raw. So, I mean, obviously these guys are huge. There's another thought that possibly this could be a vehicle to get a singles run out of Big E. Not necessarily split them apart, but have Big E go on a singles run again using the New Day as sort of like a kind of like sort of like how Triple H did with DX and all that stuff, Shawn Michaels, and kind of have them doing both at the same time. I wouldn't have a problem with that either, because you kind of know that if anybody's going to benefit from it, it's going to be Big E. So I hope that a face turn doesn't mean that the end is on the horizon somewhere, because I think these guys can certainly do this for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to spin off the Big E point there, even if they don't want to break the team up, you could still have Big E go for singles titles. You have Xavier and Kofi keep doing the tag team thing if you want. But I mean, I don't see a reason to break it up either. It's still a fresh act. I think the sky is really the limit for it. With anything they can interact with, they can they do it so well. So I mean, face heel, I don't think anybody's really going to care. These guys are going to get cheered.
Yeah, I mean, and then it would kind of ruin it if we don't get the, the Young Bucks and Omega against the New Day thing eventually at some point. I mean, these guys only sign 1-year deals. You have to remember that, so it's possible that we see it sooner rather than later, and it would be pretty awesome. And you'd think that it would have to be with all three of the guys together still. So
I'd hope so. But I do want to see that, definitely. I don't think I'm alone on that, but I definitely think that's a big deal, and it would be a dream come true. I just can imagine the suckets and all that. That would be so awesome.
God, Gary's sucket meter will just go off the roof.
I know, it's ridiculous. Well, guys, let's jump into some rapid hits real quick. Of course, I'll just throw out a topic. You guys answer it as quick as you want. Here we go, guys. Brad Ward is no longer the NXT lead writer, and he is headed to SmackDown.
I mean, good for him. He's finding his way around and all that stuff. And then hopefully, they keep the revolving door going. People learn what they need to in NXT and get back to the main show with some fresh ideas.
I wonder if this is a shot at NXT or not. We do have to remember that it's not that hard to do the old school booking the way they're doing it, but Brad Ward obviously had a way that he did it, and it was well done. We always enjoyed NXT for it. I mean, he obviously had all the legends around him to get advice from and all that stuff. So it'd be interesting to see how SmackDown changes, and if at all, if it means anything for like that brand split thing we keep talking and hearing and all that about either, that maybe that's already putting those kind of things in motion too. But it's interesting. It's interesting, and see if this affects NXT at all when we're talking about those next set of tapings after TakeOver.
TMDK is officially signed with WWE.
Another solid tag team. One that I think can work well. I mean, American Alpha and Dash and Dawson, that'd be just great matchups for them right now.
Yeah, they're going to add a lot to that division, so especially if we're going to get Gallus and Anderson going to the main roster, this would fill that spot that we thought they would take, and you just keep that tag division rolling.
WWE is looking to sign more international talents.
Kota Ibushi. What? Sorry.
Yeah. Hopefully Kota Ibushi at some point. The talk is apparently they figured out that Okada is 6'3", so now they're going after him. He's apparently not signed his New Japan deal, but I just can't imagine Okada would do that to New Japan after all the stuff Ghetto's done for. There's no way on earth. I don't care if they offered Okada like zillions. I don't see him going. So that idea, not happening.
Bubba Ray Dudley was asked if he could face off against any other tag team with, the Dudley Boys, who would it be? And of course, his team cannot be in WWE. He said the Young Bucks.
It's an interesting thing. I hear Tommy Dreamer has a promotion that the Young Bucks like to work called House Hardcore, and maybe they can work a deal.
Yeah. They also did mention they want to work some NXT guys too. That would be interesting.
Yeah, WWE has a new mobile game called WWE Champions.
It's an interesting game. It's a match 3 thing that has leveling, which I'm all about those kinds of match 3 games, so I'll probably end up playing this one.
I love WWE Immortals. The match 3 thing, sometimes I can take or leave, but you got wrestling into it, and that's kind of cool. I mean, never thought I would see a match 3 game where wrestling is just happening above the screen. That's interesting.
Pat Patterson has a new book out called Accepted.
I mean, good for him. It's an interesting story to be who you are at that time in America. So I mean, I'm sure there's some interesting bits in there for everybody to see.
Yeah, not to mention he's a foreigner, so it's interesting to get his take on that. And obviously the whole deal is that he's the first gay wrestler in WWE. It's on the front cover, and he has so many stories to tell. I think of creating the Royal Rumble and all the other him planning matches and all the stuff with Vince, and just there's so much I think he could fill in there. It'd be interesting, certainly.
John Morrison said that he wants to face off against Roman Reigns in 10 years. The reason he says this is because he feels like that's when Roman Reigns will learn to work.
Shots fired.
God. Lord. Let's just give all those people, on the internet just more ammunition.
And, of course, we're going to finish this thing off. Hulk Hogan has a 10-inch python, but not down there. He says in a courtroom and tells the prosecutor that it is not a 10-inch penis, but yeah.
The questions they have asked in this trial are grounds for a comedy video. Like, if this isn't released as a comedy at some point, I'm going to be very upset.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, seriously, if you want to, I think between David Bix's fan and Mike Semperbibi on Twitter, I think you can get every freaking thing that's ever been said at this trial. It is hilarious, and just, I mean, I feel so bad for Hogan, and I feel just his attorney's apparently an idiot, and just, I don't know. I mean, whatever they're trying to do with this trial is so dumb, and it's just, I don't know how Hulk Hogan cannot have a 10-inch penis, or can have one, but Terry Bollea doesn't. I mean, whatever, guys.
I just think it's funny in a court of law for them to bring up something like that and to allude to that.
And didn't the judge or someone say they were disappointed by hearing that? I mean,
should be.
Are you gotta be kidding me? Like, is this real? And they also asked, is TNA, is that still a thing?
Now that's awesome.
God, I wonder how Dixie Carter feels about that.
I think she gets that reaction quite a bit. And I think Hulk Hogan's response in court should have not been, it's not 10, it's 13. But anyway, so let's move on out of this.
Oh, that would have been Virgil's response.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, he made the way for everybody. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on, guys. That's all the news that we have this week. A lot of great stuff, funny stuff, interesting stuff. But we have some Monday Night Raw that we want to talk about. Some things happen, of course. Shane McMahon made his way back to TV, and a few other things that we find kind of interesting. So we'll be right back with that.
And lots of driving stuff as well, because we're on the road to Roadblock.
Yeah.
WWE Monday Night Raw.
Well, this go home to Roadblock is live from Chicago, Illinois, in the Allstate Arena, and they wasted no time to come out here with Shane McMahon, and then Shane talked for a little while, and then Vince came out as well to, they had to continue this thing. He was able to shut down the CM Punk chants pretty well after coming out to Undertaker's music and just getting a total death boo from everybody, which I thought was great because it's just, Vince knows what kind of crowd it is, so he has to make sure that he gets booed, and that's how you do it right there. I mean, this kind of didn't continue the rest of the night. This was sort of just right here. We thought it would He interestingly did not talk about Stephanie's promo at all, which, Meltzer thinks this was on purposely taken off because of other things. But did that strike you guys at all, too? That Stephanie went so vehemently against Shane in that promo, and then he doesn't even mention it.
Yeah, that was odd. The thing I really liked, I think about it, Vince and Shane, or any combination of McMahons, they know how to work each other well on the mic. They make interesting promos, even so much time on after, the invasion and the Attitude Era and all that, the crazy silliness that we experienced in the late 90s and early 2000s. But, this is just really well done. Up until the part where Shane had to start fighting, and then, there's just... His punches have never looked good. Just never looked good. And that was on display here in Chicago.
Yeah. But the crowd was totally into it when he was punching those guys, though.
They can't see that. They just know he's throwing punches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no HD, when you're in row 185 or whatever you're in, But yeah, I get, the excitement and everything, but, definitely not the strongest part of this whole thing, the fighting portion. But, I get it. I get where he should probably made more reference to Stephanie, or, maybe he had a little bit more balance there. But on the other hand, maybe I'm looking at it too deep. I think that he kind of feels like more he's focused on his father. Stephanie is kind of like the background for him, I think. I don't think he, in a way, the way he presents himself, he doesn't respect Stephanie. She's below him in a way, or he doesn't. It's about him and his father. So I kind of was okay with just the discussion about him and Vince and all that stuff going down. So I totally get where everybody's coming from, but I'm not freaking out about it. I think it's okay.
Yeah, we had that great segment, then we went right into a great, very good match between Kevin Owens and Neville. They just went at it. Some fantastic stuff here. And then the surprise that was hinted at earlier in the day, Sami Zayn shows up and makes the save before Kevin Owens can do the apron powerbomb. And there we go. We're still having a multi-man match, though, guys. No Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens on SmackDown. They kind of alluded more towards the multi-man with Ziggler and Miz and Neville.
That's just really, really unfortunate. But you got to take what you can get, I think, at this point. 3 weeks left to go. They got to get as many people on this card as possible. And if they're going to make this the multi-man, then I guess that's just the way it has to be. It's just, why can't it be the other way around? Kalisto has no feud built in, and this has, even if you have only been following their feud since NXT, it has build to it already.
It's very little effort here. You've got plenty of footage. You got all sorts of things you can interject here between now and WrestleMania. I just don't know why you wouldn't want to. I get, yes, you've already built this whole thing around the Intercontinental title and other guys like Neville. But Paul just pointed out something great here. The United States Championship, you could be this whole, round robin of guys, have a bunch of people for the U.S. title. You don't need to do this with the Intercontinental Championship. I think the Intercontinental Championship should be a singles match. I just don't need all the other hubbub. It's just kind of disappointing, to be honest with you, because I was really looking forward to Sami Zayn, Owens, WrestleMania.
Yeah, but they weren't going to just let everybody have their fun at this point. They had to have these multi-mans. The semis were having two. Sami Zayn and Neville actually beat The Miz and Kevin Owens on SmackDown. I should have mentioned that. But, it's just, they had to have a multi-man thing. It's just, they're not going to just have all these singles matches on the card because it would be unfair to them, even though you're not getting pay-per-view bonuses anymore, so I don't see what it really matters. But it is kind of the way they've always done it. So, yeah. So, we we move from this sadness of the fact that, that even though I will say this, go read this article they had of Zayn and Owens on WWE.com. It is great. It really has them both talking about their rivalry and where it started and all that kind of stuff till now. So, I would definitely say go read it.
Definitely. And, we on our intro, we had a brief segment of Sami Zayn talking about this, but if you were to hear the whole entire segment, he talks about the fact that the feud does go past way beyond what NXT and all that. And it kind of gives fans an incentive to go look back on that and find out what happened. And I think that's a great deal. I think it's something that adds to it. Sure, WWE's not going to sponsor it, but I think as fans, and especially if you like both these guys, you should take it upon yourself and go look at those older matches and see what this thing whole started out with.
Yeah. So, this show was kind of, they had some build for Roadblock, but also part of it was build for WrestleMania, and then just things that were there, like Stephanie having a talk with Ziggler about a tweet. Seriously, this is what we have, things over in WWE. A fake tweet that Ziggler was made to delete earlier in the day so that they could do this setup. Just, my God, why? And so we can have a 3-on-1 League of Nations match that no one gave 2 shits about. Yeah. I don't know, guys. Just...
I like Dolph Ziggler. I'm a big fan of Dolph Ziggler, but here's the thing. This kind of stuff is not making him look good. It is not making him look like a hero anymore. I think he tried to bring out the fact that at one time he was viewed as a hero. I got rid of the Authority one time. I would be willing to help.
Yeah, let's remind people that we got rid of the Authority, then they came back a month later.
Exactly. So things like that, I think he was trying to maybe bring himself to that hero status again, but I just... Especially the League of Nations, no one cares about. Anything they do, it's nothing. No one cares. I don't care who you put them against. That's the big deal to me, and I just don't know. Right now Ziggler is not in a place that's really great. I feel bad, and I feel bad for him because fans like me are starting to be like, eh.
I'll say this much about them getting mad at Dolph for tweets. It's not like this is the first time.
Yeah.
To be fair, them using it for an angle is kind of silly. But you have to, with the amount of social media that WWE uses, I'm surprised they don't go to this well more often.
I just wish they would, do the social media stuff better when they do it.
But you know what? Every company has nowadays, a lot of major companies have social media managers, and they pay attention to everything you do, and they look at it. Heck, when you get hired on some places, they check your Facebook, your Twitter. They check everything you do to know if you're worthy of a hire or if you're worthy of staying in the company. Make sure you're not bad-mouthing the company to other people. I think maybe they need to introduce a figure and maybe put someone else who kind of relays those messages. I think that's more entertaining than just Stephanie going, I read your tweet, blah, blah, blah. I think it'd be fun, but anyway.
Yeah, speaking of another dumb segment on this Raw, we talked about it already. Brie Bella getting distracted by Lana and her music, and she loses Summer Rae. Then Lana does the X Factor, or basically steals Brie's finish, and there you go. And then on SmackDown, Brie beats Summer Rae, and then Lana does the same thing. So, yeah, guys, Lana is apparently good at doing the X Factor.
Yay? Not a whole ton to get excited about here. I like Lana. I don't know exactly where this is going, but here we are.
You know, the thing is here, like I'm all for them doing a storyline that's going to lead into the multi-woman match to kind of add something to it, but
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, doing the same exact thing 2 times in a row, I think they could have mixed it up a little bit, changed something here. I get what their point is, though. We just got to see more. It's just hard to comment on so little. It really is right now, and I think it's great. I think people are excited to see her actually in the ring, actually being physical. We got to see more, though. There's just not enough here to really, grasp onto.
yeah, I just wanted to point out how silly it was, but at least they're building to something. I guess it could be worse.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
Maybe the wrong words though, grasping onto, because I think in that match there's probably plenty to grasp onto. But anyway, move on.
Okay.
Bless you, Gary.
Had to state it.
Okay. So Dean is kind of the central part of the show. Obviously, he cuts a promo at the beginning, which is sort of the same one he cuts on SmackDown. If you watch that show, he also has a match at the end of the night too, which they are really making that third hour feel like it is a total waste of your time every week now. But yeah, especially with another Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt match that we don't need to see again. But I felt like with the things with Triple H at the end, with Dean looking really good and looking strong, holding that title, and even Bray Wyatt caressing the title, yeah, he looked strong at the end. That's good, right?
Yeah, I think there's some fun stuff happening here. Dean, I've been high on for a long time, and this run up to Roadblock and WrestleMania has been no different. I think he's been wonderful, and especially in light of the string of injuries that WWE has taken on, I think it's really allowed Dean to break out and show everybody what he can do. And while I wasn't excited by the prospect of him and Bray again, it actually wasn't a terrible match. They had this really great sequence where they kept reversing and it ended up going to the outside. It was smooth as silk, and that is something you don't expect from really either one of these guys, and they made it look easy. I love the finish, though. This is the first time Dean's really got a hold up on Triple H, or anybody in like the last month and a half. So good on him. And then Bray's little caress of the title was a thing of beauty.
Hey, Bray actually cares about titles. What do you know? Maybe WWE should actually make him, win matches.
Yeah,
Let's not get crazy here, Sean.
We're hoping for too much, I think, here. But no, I mean, the tears almost started flowing as he stroked that title. I just was imagining great things. At that moment, I went back to the future, to the year, I think it was 2026, and just imagining the 10-time Bray Wyatt champion. That's never going to happen. But anyway, I think that there was a time there where, it got my juices flowing. I got excited because I thought, man, this is great. They actually are considering or maybe alluding to Bray Wyatt with the championship. We'll see down the line, but I think that's great. At least it was kind of put there. But Dean Ambrose, especially with a guy that has done so much when he's not always put in the great scenarios and the right places at the right time, I think have really helped. I think Dean Ambrose was great, especially with the time where we got John Cena, one of the biggest faces of the company, not going to make WrestleMania 32. You got a guy like Dean Ambrose stepping up, saying, hey, I'm willing to take that chance and show that I am the guy. I'm going to prove my point, even if the guys in the back don't really want to put me in that place. I think he's doing it now. I think he's doing a great job of it. I do enjoy the end of Raw here. I just think it's nice to finally see Dean get a little bit here, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see him get a little bit more.
Yeah, certainly. Dean's look great in all this, and, we'll have to see how it all winds up at Roadblock. It's good to know, Gary, that, considering what you talked about last week, that your juices get flowing for something.
Oh, yeah, you know it. All the time.
But, Anyway, so we move on to another. I and sort of, it's sort of kind of in this weird place, I think, but at least they're making Charlotte look strong in this with the Sasha and Becky and Naomi and Tamina match again, and then Charlotte just kind of beats up both of them. I can't speak English today. I mean, it wasn't a big thing, but it's the little things sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the build is not super strong right now, but they still got time, I mean, they got the match made. Now it's just time to turn the sizzle up some, and while this didn't do anything major, I think it at least, stokes the flame to keeping it to where it's been. So, I mean, if they want to pick it up stronger next week, let's hope they do, because they had bigger plans in mind for this hour 3 here.
Yeah, this is kind of like Paul's saying here. It kind of adds a little bit of heat, but it's nothing big. It's something that's kind of the transition moment. I'm glad it happened. I think it needs to happen, and Charlotte needs to look good in some of this. And I think this is a way for her to look good. She's able to take out both of them, stand tall. You got to have that. I think all of them have had their opportunities now to kind of showcase that they deserve to be the champ. I think it's okay, and I'm excited about seeing if they can move on and make this thing even better.
Yeah, I mean, they got time to do it, so hopefully it does improve. At least they tied in some other little things here. R-Truth is starting to come around to the whole thing with Goldust, even though R-Truth apparently doesn't understand that Goldust is lactose intolerant, and I guess Mark Henry just never misses a moment to eat some pizza. And Ryback getting in the face of Kalisto and being all about him being a little guy. And on SmackDown, Kalisto and Sin Cara lose. Sin Cara takes the pin, and then Ryback is interviewed afterwards, and he's like, 2 little guys just can't beat 2 big guys. I feel sorry for them. I mean, I know you're a big Ryback fan, Paul, so...
The thing I really liked about the... first things first, R-Truth, Goldust, and Mark Henry about the pizza segment of the year. This was so funny. Just because of how dumb it was.
Goldust's butt exploding. I got that picture.
Yeah,
going.
hey, it's the first time a loose explosion could have been used, and Yoshihashi would not have been mad.
Oh man.
As much as I'm not a giant, Kalisto versus Ryback doesn't really set my world on fire, but I really like the way they did this angle, the way the camera angle worked to show off just how much larger Ryback is than Kalisto. I think it, helps send his point home, even though the promo wasn't super strong.
I want, and that's going that direction that you're talking about, Paul, but I don't really want it to be the situation where we have Ryback encouraging Kalisto to separate himself from Sin Cara and that be a match at WrestleMania. Not so much Ryback versus Kalisto. I want that to happen. I want them to hand out Lucha Mask. I want it to finally happen like Rey Mysterio versus Sin Cara was supposed to happen. No, that's not going to happen, but I just think that's better. I love the fact that we have Ryback kind of causing that friction, causing that thought process. But I guess we're going to get what we get here, and it is going to be David versus Goliath, something we've seen plenty of times in wrestling. I guess we'll see it again.
Yeah, we will. So... getting on to probably the best match on this show, and it's largely what the show was built around, aside from the big, aside from the main angle here, which Ryback and Kalisto did have matches on their show. On this show, Ryback beat Curtis Axel and Kalisto beat Tyler Breeze. I guess it's nice we get a Tyler Breeze sighting, but the Y2AJ tag team title match between the New Day, this was all kinds of great. I mean, not only for what happened afterwards, but just the match was great. Everybody bit on that springboard 450 that AJ hit, which was wonderfully done. AJ looks so good here. And then Jericho at the end pulled a Jericho, hitting 3 code breakers and stuffing a shirt down AJ's throat. Something we haven't seen in quite a long time.
Mm-hmm. This match is amazing. AJ doing the flipping reverse DDT seamlessly with Kofi was amazing. I'm gonna toot Big E's horn here though, because he was hella impressive in this match, and especially the finish, working Jericho into the big ending, and even bigger kudos to WWE. New Day goes over clean. Yeah, I mean even better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a big deal here because AJ Styles being one of the biggest free agents and WWE finally getting him. You got Chris Jericho, a legend. Both these guys going in a match against the New Day, who are, they're fun, but you don't think of them as being, one of the all-time greats. They go in here and they showcase that they are a real tag team. They are really a force to be reckoned with, and they win against these two guys who are legitimately legends in the wrestling business. So I think that's solid. I think it's great, especially for Big E getting the chance to be the one getting the pin. But, the match was great itself. But the end here with, of course, Jericho beating the crap out of AJ and all that, I think it was cool. I wish he would have been able to tear that T-shirt in half, but I get it. It's fine. I just think it'd be kind of
They don't want any references to pythons, Gary. Come on.
I know. Of course, Jericho's probably around the 8 or 9. Anyway, but thinking about this, though, I'm a big fan of his. I think that he probably is something like that. I really think, though, that overall, after we get through with this, we have people sitting at home saying, wow, what a moment. Heel Jericho again. Maybe we sympathize with AJ, which is very good. You want people to sympathize with AJ because you want him to be a bigger face. And then the other part of this is the fact that, you're going to have those people pissed off because they just bought that Y2 AJ shirt. So
yeah, now it's a collector's item. So, you can't be too mad about it, I guess. On SmackDown, Jericho cut one heck of a promo. He even lit the fire in a garbage can and said that he's going to watch AJ's career burn away, and he's going to be the one to light the fire. Just Jericho being heel Jericho is always better than Rudy Tooty Booty Jericho.
God. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to this. I thought, maybe you throw them into the tag team mess, but you have hopefully they escalate. They let this do like a best 2 out of 3 falls or something like that. That'd be great.
Oh yeah, I would love to see that.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense for what the feud's kind of been built on before then. So,
Yeah, and I think once. I'm sure we'll probably get more on Raw. We'll probably get a chance to see some of that promo maybe from SmackDown on Raw next week. But I really hope that they come up with a song of, because Jericho is a musician and he does sing it, Fozzy and all that. I wish that they would allow him to sing AJ Won't You Light My Fire or something like that. Come up with that song. That'd be kind of cool. Homage to the Doors, he loves old music. So
Makes sense. But we do need to rate this Raw that we're talking about here.
Oh man, I'm feeling generous. I'm giving it a 7. I don't know if this warrants a 7, but I enjoyed a lot of the tag match for the titles. Obviously, was amazing. The opening segment was good, even though it's your usual talkie. Dean Ambrose was wonderful the whole way through. I think Kevin Owens, Neville, and Sami Zayn there at the first hour was really good too. I'm gonna give it a 7.
Yeah, I was at a 6 and for a little while here, and I thought about it for a lot of the reasons Paul just mentioned. Dean Ambrose looking amazing. Tag team match was great. Goldust's butt exploding, solid. I mean,
10 out of 10.
That was.
Imagine if they would have actually had the visual of Goldust's butt exploding.
Think of the glitter. Anyway, I would love it. Anyway. But you got that, and then of course, you also have some stuff to grasp onto here.
God.
That's another thing. So I'm going to give it a 7 too. I agree with Paul. Kind of shocked, but I'm going to give it a 7.
Well, our panel here of the WTM group thought the median was a 7. So they sort of agreed with all three of us. I'm giving it a 7 as well. You guys kind of hit it. We had about 4 or 5 say it was an 8. We also had a few say it was 6. We had a couple say it was a 0 because the build to WrestleMania has been boring, and every match at Roadblock, I guess he's excluding the main event and some of the other ones, has 0 story behind it. We have a 2 and a 5 as well, so kind of across the board here. But, I don't see what all the hate's coming from. This kind of had a lot of good things, but this is where I got to ask the question before we get out of here is, do you think that WWE Roadblock is kind of hurting the build to WrestleMania in a way?
I think certain parts of it do. I think Triple H and Dean Ambrose for the belt makes WrestleMania's build more interesting because of simply the wild card that could happen there. Brock Lesnar and Bray Wyatt I could kind of do without, but they got to tie up whatever they did at the Rumble, so I understand. But it's sort of, I guess, it doesn't take away from either, because it's not like Bray's doing anything big and Brock's got Dean. I mean, this is just going to be Brock doing another massacre, unfortunately. But I mean, parts of it I'm okay with. The main story around the belt, I think, is what makes the story interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, Paul, and I really didn't put that into place, but I think the wild card spot for the world title is a big deal, because if they continue this on down the line, I think somewhere down the line that wild card actually has to take place and a new champion is crowned going into WrestleMania, whereas the old thought process was one guy, then it gets turned over. I think that's got to happen. And if that happens, then Roadblock is something that matters. But right now, I kind of see it as maybe just a little bit of a roadblock. I kind of see it, maybe it could slow momentum. Maybe people don't care as much. Maybe people will get a little agitated. I want to have all the momentum going to WrestleMania. I don't want to have to take another stop at Detour. I would just rather just go on to WrestleMania. So I'm not so much a fan of Roadblock, but if they can prove me otherwise, I'll be down.
Yeah, I mean, like Triple H said, it's more like a pothole or a speed bump to WrestleMania. So,
yeah.
I mean, it does feel that way. It's I think I can kind of see where it's hurting it, because you're looking at it and now they're taking Roman Reigns off shows, and perhaps this is all sort of a thing to, I think we'll forget Roman Reigns for a while. I think they think that just making people forget about Roman Reigns will all of a sudden erase all of the hatred or whatever, while people actually hate Triple H because he's picking on Dean Ambrose. And I don't know. I feel like that whole thing is misplaced as far as I think they're not thinking about the fact that there is a kind of go away thing with Roman Reigns, and they're not going to be that happy to come back either. Especially now that, we already, I think, did we talk about this? That we found out John Cena definitely is not coming back for WrestleMania. So,
yeah.
I mean, just...
I threw it out there, but I mean, and you're right, Sean, him not being there, it does affect things. All those kids that are sitting there waiting to see him, they now know it's not going to happen. And you've got to have their selling points. And sure, Roman Reigns is great for kids. Kids do enjoy Roman Reigns, but the backlash that has happened has really caused his momentum not to be there going into WrestleMania as well. That's a deal. That's something that I think has to kind of make WWE start to think, man, we've got to make sure we come up with something that's solid and not something that we have to keep pulling back on. And that's Roman Reigns. They keep having to pull back the reins because of fan reaction.
Reigns on Reigns.
Yeah.
To touch on the John Cena thing, I mean, it's the first WrestleMania he's missed in more than a decade.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's been on every single one since 20.
That's amazing.
I still think he should show up just to show up. I mean, he doesn't have to get in the ring and wrestle, just show up, make an appearance. Stone Cold will do it. Why can't he? So. But anyway, guys, well, let's go ahead and move on and talk Roadblock. We just kind of mentioned a few things about it, but we need to kind of go down the card a little bit here and kind of give some of our prediction on what we think is going to happen. So we'll be right back with Paul running down this card for us.
Hold on 1 second. My computer is... Yeah, there it goes. Okay. Well, now if it stops freezing, it'd be great. Okay.
So I think we have 4 matches officially scheduled so far. At least that's what I'm seeing here. We'll start at the bottom here. The New Day will defend the WWE Tag Team Championships against the League of Nations contingent of Sheamus and King Barrett. Let me tell you how excited I am for this one, guys.
It could be a good match on, at least you'd think anyway. But, New Day retain.
New Day retains. And if they don't, that really is a roadblock to WrestleMania.
Yeah. I mean, King Barrett's obviously going to take the fall. He's the only one who Dolph beat, and if that doesn't tell you where you are in the pecking order, then nothing else will.
Oh, yeah.
The other set of tag team championships, the NXT ones, will be up for grabs as the Revival, Scott Dawson, Dash Wilder, defend against Enzo and Big Cass. This one, however, I am very much looking forward to. I think it's going to be a really fun match. Who do you guys got walking out of this one with those championships?
I'm going Enzo and Kaz here. I think this is going to be something fun to watch, and I think this is a good time to kind of showcase those guys.
No, they're not changing the belts here. We already know what the deal is for TakeOver Dallas.
What is it?
It's just the Revival against American Alpha. And so this is a
right.
little speed bump to.
I guess you're right.
This is to settle that feud, and I'm totally cool with that. Like, they needed to, and it kind of sucks that we perhaps Enzo and Cass will leave NXT with never holding those belts, and as sad as that kind of is, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world.
You got a point. I guess I got to change because that makes sense. I kind of forgot about NXT Dallas on that point.
And I'm
You're
sorry,
right.
Harry, if I just spoiled something for you, but a lot of this card's already been kind of known for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm what Sean pretty much said. Revival retain here. This ties up the feud. I'm pretty sure Enzo and Colin Cassidy are coming up to the main roster Raw after WrestleMania, which should be something wonderful to behold. But this should be a really fun match either way, even if we already know that this is pretty much set in stone with the Revival going over. Next up, words. Brock Lesnar takes on Bray Wyatt. I don't know how much you guys really want to talk about this one because I'm sure this is obvious, but
I don't think this is a squash by any means, but it's certainly not going to be. I don't think it's going to be a sort of competitive match or anything either. I just see the other Wyatts getting involved at some point, and who knows what happens to them.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them letting Lesnar and Wyatt go for a little while, and then it just kind of like what we've seen. Just, the family's here, okay, and then DQ or whatever. Something's going to happen like that. But yeah, I don't imagine that Bray Wyatt's going to walk out of this at all as a victor.
See, I'm imagining worst case scenario where they go maybe 5 minutes, the family comes in, Brock deals with them easily, and then deals with Bray, and that's the match. Like, it doesn't sound like it's going to be great for Bray on any end of the spectrum here. It's a scary thought, Gary. Scary thought.
Terrible.
This is the most important part of the show, though. Triple H defending the WWE World Heavyweight Championship against Dean Ambrose. Will they or won't they, guys? That is the question.
I don't know. I just cannot see them going back on something they've already established. I think, we've already sort of been through this. That I don't know what this is going to do, but okay. Sorry, my computer's being weird while I'm talking. I think we all want to have this nice thought of, they'll give Ambrose the title here, or they'll switch course, but I just don't see it. I think at the end it could cause them to push Reigns and Triple H down the card, though.
Yeah, as much as I would love for this to be the scenario where Ambrose wins and we get a mix-up here, there's no way Triple H loses his spot at WrestleMania. Even if he gets slid down the card, no way he'd lose that opportunity. Let's just be honest. Even behind the curtain.
It would be Triple H and it would be Reigns losing his spot, or it would be a triple threat or something.
Yeah. I guess with the rematch clause, it would be a triple threat. Yeah, I guess you can see that too.
Yeah, because apparently the original thought for this show was Brock, Ambrose, and Triple H.
Mm-hmm. Which, makes for, I guess, a better situation. But let's be honest, at the end of the day, Reigns will be the guy who does the thing. So I think either way it works out, but I'm still going to say Triple H retains here.
I'm reading a lot of stuff online that says if they do give it to Dean, it'll be a 4-way at Mania, and a lot of people think they just won't do that because it leaves the card too open and this and that. I'm going to say pooey on the pundits and phooey on everybody else. Dean Ambrose walks out with the championship. It's Dean and Brock in your main event, and you do Triple H and Roman Reigns down the card. I think giving Dean the belt sets you up wonderfully if you want to do a Shield thing later, because you could turn Reigns heel because he feels snubbed. You could have Seth come back, and for all people to be holding the belt, it's Dean. There's some great television to be had here, and I'm going to take the puncher's chance here and say Dean Ambrose is your new champion walking out of Roadblock.
And, Seth Rollins has actually been seen training. He has been in the ring a little bit, not saying he's ready to actually wrestle a match, but for him to show up and, to do something small is not out of the question. So that's some good thought process there, and I would like to see that, But let's see. To me, Roman Reigns turning heel is the best scenario for all of us, and for himself as well. So I want to see it. So, but there you go, guys. That's Roadblock. So we'll have to see this Saturday what happens, what goes down, and not only that, if they add any other matches or they change things up a little bit on us. But, that's going to be this Saturday. Don't miss it on the network. Plus, we are going to do a show that is going to be a special about Roadblock. So you don't want to miss that on. We're going to be recording it late Saturday night. And if you want to hear us and you don't stay up late, check us out Sunday. It'll be on demand, ready for you to listen to. And we'll kind of recap everything that went down in Roadblock. But besides that, guys, we're going to move on and do some other discussions here. And the next thing on the docket is NXT. We had a pretty big match here, a 2 out of 3 falls match against Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn we're going to get into. Plus, we have another special topic that Sean's going to talk about and kind of break down for you guys. We'll be right back with NXT.
WWE Developmental NXT.
Yeah, I gotta love when you press a button and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So William Regal comes out basically to tell you what's gonna happen with this Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn match, and also to announce that Baron Corbin versus Austin Aries will happen at TakeOver Dallas. So, and then you get the almost 45-minute 2 out of 3 falls a Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn match. Joe basically beats up Sami Zayn for a lot of this match. He takes the first fall, then he taps out to the Koji Clutch with second fall. And then Joe makes Zayn pass out after all the stuff he's done to him, after Sami Zayn made this huge comeback in the last 5 to 10 minutes. And Joe is the man going into NXT TakeOver Dallas to face Finn Balor. But what did you guys think of this very long match?
This is probably the best match NXT has done. It's certainly match of the year candidate. Well paced, incredibly well planned out. If they did anything before this, worked slow, built it up, did it right, and you're rewarded with an absolutely tremendous matchup. And there isn't like the moves are great. Obviously, it's why we're watching this too. But Sami and Joe, as far as their mannerisms and what they did during the match, like Joe shouting "Think about your career" to Sami as he's just beating the living bejesus out of him. Absolutely amazing, especially for a guy like Sami, who, if you followed him throughout NXT so far, has just made a career out of getting his butt handed to him on a weekly basis.
Yeah, you're right on that. And this is a match that I really felt like was paced right. Paul just mentioned it. To me, it started out kind of slow. They were kind of feeling each other out. You were just getting a chance to kind of see what they might be able to do here. And then after the pace started picking up, you really got a feel of the intensity that these guys had between each other. And you got more storytelling a little bit here with just the way they reacted to each other. And, of course, the jargon Joe spilled out, the way Sami Zayn was just not willing to give up. No matter how much he got beat up, he was going to keep going. And just the way this all worked out, I was very, very happy, very pleased. I didn't need anything else on this show. I was completely happy with this one match, and it worked. It just completely worked. I think you're right, Paul. It is definitely a match of the year candidate. And I'm okay with Samoa Joe winning here. To me, I thought about this, before we got to this match. I thought, well, Sami Zayn on Raw, where we're going to go with this? How is it going to affect NXT? Blah, blah, blah. I think we're getting more of an answer here, and I think that's solid, and I love the fact that Samoa Joe will be facing Finn Balor.
Yeah, we'll get to see that match, Gary. It's just, it's one of these, they could have done this the other way, and they decided to go with what they did, but this is, I gotta give them a lot of kudos, because, doing a whole match of 45 minutes on NXT is not something that you think they would maybe do, but watching it, I'm going, wow, they really took the whole show to do this, because they announced, American Alpha against Vaudevillains for the number one contendership. They had things they were going to do on the show, and then they just let them do it the whole show. That's just amazing to me.
Yeah,
so.
to me, I don't know about you guys, but definitely a match I was completely fine with being the entire show. I know some people always say, "Oh, it's going to bore," just good. To me, it wasn't. I was thoroughly entertained the entire time.
Yeah, certainly can't say. I get it if you are not a fan of matches that build up, or you think they take too long to build up, but it definitely is worth it by the end. Because you definitely get the story told and everything done right by the time you get to that, I thought. So, moving on from this, though, is our big topic of... sorry, as I'm trying to send out tweets while we're doing this. Also, my computer decided to do a bazillion things at the same time. It decided to crap out Firefox. Thank God we're not doing this on the browser anymore. We would have lost the show.
Oh boy.
It decided to crap out Firefox, and it had to do a whole reset of the entire thing, and weird. Anyway, Ryan Clingman, who writes for Cube Circle Wrestling.com, I posted this on the group, and I think we did have a nice discussion about it. But if you haven't gotten to read this, Ryan Clingman had a really great article about it's a different way to look at NXT. I don't necessarily believe everything he's saying, because there's obviously positive things, to NXT, but it's basically kind of giving you this gist of Triple H has another sort of reason why he's doing this kind of almost 1984ing NXT to the point where, like, he's kind of just collecting talent to collect them. And, you know, I think it's sort of one-sided in that way, that maybe you're taking a lot of your independent talent and bringing it into NXT, and then it hurts the indies. And yet, I mean, you can make the point that it does, because as he points out in this article, when you take some of the guys that you're learning from, you know, you take all those guys that are the veterans, and then you have what's left is all the, you know, the green guys. The guys don't learn from that. So, you know, there's points to be made. Well, you know, you guys both read the article, or at least read the gist of it. What did you think? And do you feel that he's right about things, or is he totally wrong? What do you think about this?
I think there are parts of his article that are fairly true. WWE is attempting to cash in on something that is incredibly hot, and that is independent wrestling. And Triple H is doing this by signing top-tier indies and making what, you know, the fabled super indie with all this top talent, all these guys who have been around the business for a while, and turning it into this giant money-making machine that guys like you and me and people who maybe listen to this podcast and people who don't can get on board with and just watch wrestling and see the wrestling that they want to see, and that's great. The parts where it hurts independent wrestling, I also think are true. Maybe not so much about guys not learning the right way, because there's always going to be somebody out there who they can learn from, whether it's an old-timer or somebody who's just refused to sign or somebody who WWE is just not going to sign. So there's always going to be guys like that, I think, around. Overall, does it hurt the independent wrestling business? Yes. The points he brings up about NXT directly competing with ROH ring very true. And this is a company that WWE used to work with back in the mid-2000s too. I mean, it's incredible, and them sort of snubbing them and stomping them and trying to. I mean, they're co-promoting shows WrestleMania weekend. You know, Supercard of Honor 10 and NXT TakeOver Dallas, same day, same bell time. And if it's not deliberate, it certainly looks very deliberate. So I think from that aspect, it certainly is true that it's hurting indie wrestling. I don't think it's hurting independent wrestlers, though.
Yeah. You know, Paul kind of pointed out a lot of these things in the article that, you know, and I kind of agree on a lot of his points. But, you know, the one thing I'll say is we've seen some of this stuff come true. We're seeing buildings legitimately cancel independent shows because WWE contacts them and says, well, we got an NX show the next weekend. We don't really feel like that's a good idea for you to have a wrestling show before our wrestling show next weekend. If you don't cancel, we're going to consider going to another place. Well, of course, they want NXT there. They want the money that WWE is going to pay them to do the shows there. They're going to cancel the independent show because the independent show is not going to make them enough money anyway. That hurts the talent. That hurts the independent business just by doing things like that. I heard about a big pay-per-view show that was going to take place in a certain arena, and they had to cancel it because of NXT. WWE in general, they'll even do some of their live events to do this. So I get that. That is the truth. And the talent portion of this, about taking major talent, yes, that's true. You got guys like Samoa Joe. Even we just saw Austin Aries show up on WWE NXT television. And Tommaso Ciampa, guys like that have been around the indie circuit. They know the business. But, you know, there are plenty of other talents that are still going to be out there. They can't sign everybody. I mean, they could try to. I don't think they're going to open their wallets up that much to sign so many veterans off the ground level of, you know, the independent circuit that they can legitimately stop that. I just think looking at this whole thing, I think that really they may be trying to go with the way that they did before. You know, they killed the whole, you know, the whole circuit between, Vince basically killed all the other shows that are around I'm blanking on the name of it. They killed Mid-South. They killed, Florida Championship Wrestling. Things like that were going on for years and years. They were able to snuff it out. And this is their new way of trying to snuff it out a little bit. I don't think it's as menacing as this guy makes it out to be. He kind of makes it out like, WWE is, Mother Russia and they're out to crush you all. I don't think that's the case. I think that they are trying to be successful. They're trying to get as much talent as they can because I think they legitimately want NXT to be a giant brand. I really feel like that. Even if Vince McMahon himself doesn't really care for it, I think Triple H this is my stamp. This is me. This is what my future is going to prove, that I made this promotion the greatest promotion that it can be. And that's where I think it's going from this. I think that's what they're really aiming for. I don't think it's all evil, even though some of it is.
I think part of it is, too, that, you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, well, obviously they've been trying to compete with ROH. Well, yes, they have. They are signing a lot of talent, and NXT is a 1-hour show, and they can't possibly put all these guys on TV. And, yes, you're right about that, And the thing is, we have to remember that they have 2 touring brands now. So they have the one in Florida, and the one in Florida can't just be a bunch of green guys, because then nobody goes, even though those are 200 to 400 seat arenas, and it doesn't matter if they fill those or not. But you still want people to go to those shows. You don't want them to feel like, because NXT is only drawing pretty much the hardcore crowd. So if you tell the hardcore crowd that there's nothing going on in these shows, then they're not going to go, and then there's going to be nobody in these arenas to watch them. So you need this much talent to fill the Florida shows, and then the ones where they tour around. And then, if you think about it like this, if you say, okay, well, what if they do the brand extension? Well, if they do the brand extension, even with the 4, 5, 6 people that are on the injured list, you still have to fill rosters full of shows here. You got to have NXT that's going to have a mass exodus happen of at least 6 or 7 or 8 people probably. Then you got to fill that back in. Then you got to have all these house shows where you have enough to fill 2 or 3 hour shows. So, there's things to be said there where maybe they're not getting on NXT TV all the time, but they're getting shown in other places. Like we haven't seen La Sombra on NXT TV yet, but he's on the house shows. We've seen Rich Swann once. We've seen, Christopher Gerard one time. I mean, look at Gargano and Ciampa. They're not signed, but they're letting them be on TV. Vince would never do that now. I mean, used to we had jobbers that in the dark matches, and they still do that, but they don't let them be on TV. So think of it that way. I mean, those guys are getting checks. Blue Pants, same thing, and she was never signed. So, I mean, I don't think you can say that it's a total destruction of the indie wrestling. In fact, and we've noted this on this show, and many other people have, is look at what it's doing to all these other companies. Look at TNA and ROH and New Japan and what they're having to do now. They're having to give these guys more money and more years on their contracts, more stability, which is better for them, because Triple H is going around, or WWE is going around and going, hey, you want to come over here? Just think about that. That is in a way good for those wrestlers, that because there's competition, it creates all this, So, do I think that Triple H is this stroking his ego a little bit? Is he trying to show Vince, hey, I can do this, and look at all these people I'm signing, and look at how great this show is, and look at how all these people are receiving it, and look at how your shows are. Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Because Shane, we talked about how Shane tried to do this, right? So, I mean, I don't know, guys. To me, I just feel like I see more positives in this than I see negatives, per se. I mean, yeah. I just don't know how else we kind of already outlined the negatives, but do you really see how this could become this? Could it be possible that the thing is with Sinclair owning ROH, I don't see like it taking ROH down to where they're going to be out of business. Like that's not happening either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't know.
The way kind of the way I look at this is the positives here is guys have built their career, and they built their career enough to catch the attention of people like Triple H, and of course anybody else, William Regal, anybody else who out there scouts and finds these guys, and these guys have proven themselves. They move up the ladder. They go to NXT. Well, then you've got this new group of guys, and sure, these new group of guys may be greener, but then this gives them an opportunity to build themselves up, to make themselves the next guys to move up to NXT. I find that positive because I find that as an opportunity for guys to find more work and get a chance to get out there and do things. Now, if the shows that they're on are not selling well, that's a problem. But if, like you're saying, Sean, if Ring of Honor is still going to be in business no matter what your NXT is doing, that's a positive thing. If TNA is going to keep going and they're going to keep growing and do whatever they've got to do, that's another opportunity for people. So it's not completely like they're killing the indie circuit or killing some of these other shows. They're just getting more guys the opportunity to get on these shows and prove that they're the next stars. And whereas if NXT wasn't doing this and NXT was staying very small and a very low rate roster or just a minimal, there's guys that'll still be on that indie circuit that'll never move up, which other guys underneath will never move up.
And what about what it's doing for Evolve, right? They're using them as a feeder system, and it's giving WWE like direct line to a lot of these great talent that can come through there, but isn't this also helping Evolve? Like now a lot of people are watching Evolve because WWE is sort of connected with them.
That's a solid point, but that's one promotion out of the how many indies you have around the country, and that's not to take away from what I think NXT is doing. I think NXT is certainly helping popularize a style of wrestling that is distinctly not what you get on WWE television, which I think inadvertently maybe helps the indies, because if you go out and you find like a Ring of Honor, or you find New Japan on Access, or if you find a TNA, or you find a promotion in your local area that's certainly putting on something akin to this style, or is that style, or whatever, maybe you're more inclined to start giving them some money, and that's helpful. The only thing I can really think of that sort of takes away is when you take away those guys who have been on the indies for a while and certainly get top billing for like an AAW or an AIW or a Ring of Honor or a PWG, and those guys, ticket sales start getting hit, and you have all these lower guys that you're trying to rely on selling your shows. That might not always be enough to keep you afloat. And you have guys like Colt Cabana or Chris Hero now, or Sami Callihan, guys who were tried the WWE system, didn't work out, came back, doing the indies again. The same happened to Antonio Cesaro / Claudio Castagnoli too. So it's not like just because they're up there now doesn't mean they always will be.
Right, and this kind of leads into another thing where, but let me get to that with Gary, where, we used to kind of go to a local indie before NXT was around. I did that. Here, kind of all the indie stuff is in Tampa, so, I don't have, my car cannot drive 4 hours to go do all that. But I thought Paul brought up a good point in that if you see this and you go, okay, well, they've got to be coming from somewhere. Let me go check out, they said, I saw the name Evolve on that video they showed of Apollo Crews. Oh, let me check that out. What's that? What's RPW? Let me go find that out. They have their own on-demand service. So now all three of the sort of big English companies out there all have their own streaming services. So it's very easy for whatever it is, $8, $9. You can check out their stuff. Pointing on to even if you some of the Japanese stuff is a little bit harder if it's not New Japan, but you could find that too. I mean, I think it leaves the door open for people to discover other things through that.
I definitely agree. I think so too. And, this is a way to really encourage people to not, to stay in their little bubble, to move out there and find new things and find new superstars. And I just think it's a really positive thing. Not only that, it puts it all in one place. There's nothing like asking people, unless they're hardcore fans who are willing to put the time in and effort into looking for every little single piece of video. You're putting all in one place. You're giving them the opportunity to check out many different brands. It's just, to me, a smart business plan. But not only that, it's giving people the chance to really evaluate the new guys, the guys that are coming up the ladder. And it's going to get them excited about, maybe some talent that they have never seen before. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, so going on from that, now there was this, Meltzer said on the Observer, and then on with Vince talking about this in an Orlando Sentinel interview where he talks about kind of praising Triple H and praising Stephanie and praising Shane for what they're good at. He does kind of mention that he doesn't like the fact that he's talked about that even though Shane mentioned on Raw, he does not like the fact that people mention him as being 70 years old and out of touch, and that's sort of something that we've heard a lot of, and that Vince doesn't like sort of the way Triple H has NXT propped up in the wrestling media, and the way that NXT is kind of this savior of wrestling or whatever, whereas kind of WWE's looked at as this old stale product, and he's not a big deal on NXT because he thinks it's full of guys that can't draw. And it's a bunch of guys that are not going to really, help him in the future, even though I'm sure he's going to be calling some of them up at some point. That kind of what happened with Tyler Breeze was sort of used, even though I think that's a bad example because I personally never thought Tyler Breeze was going to be, world champion or anything. He probably could have been booked better, I'm sure. But I mean, there's other cases of ones that have worked out and ones that haven't, but do you think that Vince sort of has this thing against NXT and he's sort of letting it go, obviously because it's profiting for him and it's helping Triple H, but he also doesn't... Do you see this as sort of like a McMahon? Because part of the thing that was said about Shane not involving Triple H and Stephanie in that promo, and notice how Triple H has stayed away from Shane during this entire thing, even though that could be storyline related for later on, is that supposedly Stephanie and Triple H were supposed to agree that they were going to leave Raw if Shane won at WrestleMania, and it could be something that they just saved for later on, to kind of add things on to Raw, but do you possibly see, like, if Shane gets back in this backstage thing, that maybe this becomes a McMahon family war behind the scenes and NXT becomes this like elephant in the room that's sort of like, well, now you're kind of making me seem like what I'm doing up here is nothing, and you're getting all the glory, and every time one of these guys comes up, they're not going to go anywhere, and it becomes this circle of death, basically. And what do you think could happen here?
So here's the thing. Saying that NXT guys can't draw is bullshit. They sold out the Barclays Center for 3 nights in a row, and most of that was because of NXT. That's completely full. And I mean, imagine if they tried to book NXT TakeOver Dallas here at the AAC. I guarantee you that would have sold out as fast as it did in the community center here, or the convention center. It's
so weird they didn't do it there.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane to think that these guys can't draw when very clearly this little, what was supposed to be a development territory has turned into a multifaceted portion of your entire business model now, because NXT is not only a development center, it's a training center. You have the entire, the workout area and all that down there in Orlando. And, you have this burgeoning business thing with Evolve, and you have all these things coming together around NXT to feed up to the main roster, and saying that it's not helping you or not able to draw anything is silly. It's silly and total horseshit. So Vince has no leg to stand on there. Now, if he's tired of not getting any glory for what he's doing on the main roster, then that is totally believable. I can absolutely see him thinking that he's not getting anything, even though he's the one putting on the big shows and all this stuff, and whatever else he's going to make up in that mind of his. But if Vince isn't catching on to what is making NXT successful, he is failing the main roster. There is something obviously working in NXT that is clicking and making that trend worthy, and something he is not capitalizing on the main roster. And there are parts of that show that work, and there are parts that just simply don't. And the parts that don't, you have to wonder if that's his idea, if that's somebody else's, or if that's Yes Men, or all these other things. And the parts that do, you have to ask the same questions. So, I mean, the unevenness of the main roster, as opposed to what's working on NXT, I think is something that, could hold water. That's an argument that could hold water.
So there's also this thought, Gary, that perhaps Triple H is sort of having NXT and all this other stuff as this sort of shadow promotion, so that if something happens, he has all these guys that are loyal to Triple H, so that if Shane does come in and we try to have this McMahon family war going on, that you really can't do anything to Triple H, because he'll have all these guys behind him that will have no loyalty to Vince and say, okay, well, I don't feel like I need to go to WWE. I mean, look at all these people that have said, oh man, it's great in NXT, all this stuff, and basically what you think about WWE is the money that you're going to get. But all the frustration that you deal with WWE as far as the booking and all that kind of stuff that happens to you, even Kevin Owens at certain points, who has largely been he's survived a lot of this. The way he was introduced to the way where he is now is much different. I mean, do you think that could be possible too? That Triple H is sort of doing this to protect himself?
I guess that could be a scenario, and maybe that has entered his mind. I'm not sure. I kind of am led to believe more that this is a conspiracy theory in a way. But that's fine. It's not a bad conspiracy theory. I think it's kind of interesting, if you ask me. To imagine a WWE strike with NXT. To imagine that, like we had the NFL strike in like '86. And for those guys who crossed the picket and people who were forced to cross the picket, like Randy White, guys who are legitimately tied to the WWE and who have to kind of make that decision financially. I get it. And here's the thing. I think the biggest problem that Triple H is going to have here is he's going to have people loyal. He's going to have people care about him and want to be a part of NXT still because of what it is and what it represents. But money talks. And Triple H just has nowhere near the funds or the ability that Vince is going to have at this moment. And if Vince wants to, he can promise a guy the world right now. He could promise a Finn Balor the championship belt and tons of money. And he can promise a Bayley that she will be the women's champion as soon as she shows up. He can promise Enzo and Kaz that they are going to be the next New Day. Things like that can take place, and those guys will have to legitimately look at their careers and say, stay and have fun like I did on the indie circuit, or go make my pay. A lot of guys are going to go make their payday. It's just the way it is. They have to feed their families. They have to think about their futures. Their careers, especially as professional wrestlers, are not going to be super long. Especially the way things are going nowadays with concussions and things like that, your careers are going to be shorter. You're no longer going to have these guys in the ring for so many years that they're going to be 45 and still doing it at a high level. So I think it's a great thought. I think it's something where maybe Triple H is considering that, but I don't know that's a fail-safe process, I definitely could see it kind of falling a little flatter than he would hope.
Any thought at all to that, Paul? Or?
The idea that Triple H is essentially politicking again to protect himself and put himself in a good position, I could find that believable. I mean, we're talking about a guy who I think has politicked his way to where he is today, which I think is something the writer of the article made a great job of sort of explaining and mentioning, and all the other fun words that go with describing that. But to say that Triple H is worried about his position or anything like that, I find a little silly. I mean, him and Stephanie have been together for a long time. They've been involved with the company for a very long time. The future is clearly on their shoulders, and for Triple H to feel, I guess, a need to protect himself, I find a little far-fetched, Yeah.
I get the pressure. Because Shane being involved now, and we hear rumors of Vince and Triple H kind of having, not a heat, but a little bit.
Like you think maybe
friction.
Shane's there to kind of check Triple H, like if because part of this too is that Vince didn't like the way that Triple H kind of didn't help try to put Roman Reigns over. That maybe Triple H is not part of the Roman Reigns fan club, and that he might have purposely tried to help out the fans and cheering all that and whatever, and that that there could be something there to where if you're not going to be on my side, then whose side are you on, sort of thing. I think we can obviously all agree that Triple H didn't really do Roman Reigns any favors in that beatdown, but to say that the crowd was all of a sudden going to cheer Roman Reigns is, I think, a little bit far-fetched in Vince's head, and this is sort of Vince's problem, right? He thinks that he's going to be able to control everyone.
I'll say that I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend to try to know if Shane was brought in to check. WWE has always been a family business at its core. It is a McMahon company. And if Shane had any idea of wanting to come back, or if Vince said, hey, I need you here, I don't doubt for a second that there's always been a place for Shane. Even in a wrestling or a WWE that's run by Stephanie and Triple H in the future, I'm sure there was always still going to be a spot for Shane, should he ever want to come back, or he was ever asked to come back, or needed, or what have you. That being said, if he's there to check Triple H, I don't know if Shane is really a guy you would want to do that, because I think Shane sees the business differently than his dad does. I mean, we've seen Shane try to go out and have some ideas of his own. Some of them didn't work. Maybe a few of them did. And Shane, I think, is his own man in this business, and I don't know if him coming in to check and see if, to be that guy to say, hey, maybe we should push Roman Reigns, I don't think that's why he's there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people put a lot of things in place just to see if they can hope and wish things are going to change especially in the main roster. I think people want change so bad, and they want to see other things happen, that they're kind of putting this into place, that Shane's going to cause, trouble for, Triple H and Stephanie, and Vince is going to da-da-da-da-da-da. I think that, it's a hubbub. I really think that, really honestly, the way this is going to work out is Vince is setting everybody up to succeed past his time, and I think he's just hoping that, they can all get along. And if anything, maybe he is doing kind of Paul says. He's making sure Shane knows you got a place here. But I think the thought process all along is that, Stephanie and Triple H have this thing. They've had it for a while, and they're the successors.
Yeah, it's just part of it is what Gary said. We all kind of want to see things in a certain way. We do have to be realistic in the fact that, WWE will probably always be a casual-driven company, and not because they want to be against the grain or whatever like that. It's because they're a publicly traded company. They have stockholders that tell them, hey, hello, this dropped. You guys better do something. Hello, these people aren't watching this anymore. You better do something. Like, this isn't like all these other companies that, Like even in New Japan, they can continue to just kind of go to their audience, even though they have had to change the way that they do things because they're worried about the audience getting older, and that's sort of part of the reason why Kadani came in, because he kind of appealed to the younger audience with all the the trading card stuff and whatever that he did. And then ROH has Sinclair behind them, but they're also they're kind of doing their niche thing because they can, because they have this huge company that is it. They really, all they want is for them to just continue to kind of grow slowly. They're not really interested in, oh, well, you guys got to compete with Vince right now. And I mean, TNA is whatever TNA is. So I mean, to me, WWE, if they want to continue to be what they are, they have to continue to be this thing that appeals to the mass market. So, NXT is what it is because they're on the network and they don't have to appeal to all that crap. We're kind of fortunate that we get to watch this sort of show that's catered to us, the people that are listening, and everybody else that's a hardcore fan on the internet get to watch this happen because Triple H kind of gets to do whatever he wants, down here, sort of. And then, we get upset when we see our favorite guys and girls go up to the main roster where you're so happy that they're making more money, but then you're like, oh man, they could be such big stars. And part of that is on Vince, but then you also have to think about it from his perspective of, well, he has this tussle going on, So maybe that goes back to the whole, well, that's why there's never been this awesome publicly traded company, because they have so many hands, so many people in the way. That's why the writer's room has got like 30 people in it. I mean, I don't know. Do we give Vince too hard of a time sometimes, and we don't think about these things?
I've always thought we were pretty fair on this show. I always thought we gave WWE credit when they deserved it. I always thought we gave them the red hot poker whenever they didn't, And when you look at what they're doing with, some guys like Neville or Tyler Breeze, we never had the idea that these guys could be world champions or anything like that, But you look at some of the other guys they have coming out, like, Finn Balor, I think is a great example. I think Finn could very much be world heavyweight champion in WWE. But I don't know if the NXT stigma, if that is a term we're going to coin here, or whatever else Vince might have in his head for the guy is going to get in the way, could stop him. And that would certainly be a shame because, he's tremendous talent and this and that and all the other wonderful things we said about him on the show. But I've never... I mean, obviously we know Vince is a problem at times. I think the writers are another problem at the time. Like Raw, this last Raw, like we talk about almost every week now. It's very uneven 3 hours. Some of it's really good, some of it is just terrible, and some of it just makes you wonder why the heck this is on your television.
Yeah, I mean, Gary, you have anything to add? I think that pretty much closes our.
Yeah, I agree, and here's the thing, people are calling Vince out for being old and being out of touch, and I think to some aspects maybe he does have some theologies that are not in line with a newer age of thinking. I still think the guy's got some things that honestly work. I mean, he's been in this business for too many years not to have some thought processes that are actually going to be successful in this business. So I think, yes, we give him a hard time at times, but at other times it's deserved. It needs to be known. I wish, he could understand why people don't like certain things, understand, why people are being so adamant against certain guys. Roman Reigns would be one of them. That's the way I just kind of feel about it. I think, everybody has their day, and Vince has had his day, and I think he may have a few more, but, he's got to listen to his audience, too. I don't think he needs to forget about them and realize that he's not the only guy that has some intelligence when it comes to wrestling. So, Well, guys, that pretty much wraps up NXT and our big discussion here, but we do have something else we're going to do. Before we move on and talk about New Japan Cup, we need to talk some Lucha Underground. So, Paul, we're going to let you take over there. And just to let everybody also know, we also are going to be talking some TNA Impact, Kurt Angle's last match in TNA. We're going to talk about it. And plus, we're going to get into some Ring of Honor. But before we do that, let's talk some Lucha Underground. Take it away, Paul.
All right, so we open with the usual video package to recap what's been going on the show. We immediately cut to Sexy Star backstage, where the Mac shows up and tells her that he's got a one-on-one match with the Moth, and he wants her in his corner, but she initially refuses. The Mac tells her that this isn't the Sexy Star he knows. Sexy Star is tough. She's this big, terrific person, and then she finally agrees. Never in my life did I think a wrestler with a move called My Dick Explodes would be a gentleman. Never in my life.
I love it.
So we go immediately to that match, Marty the Moth taking on the Mac. Mac is just a tremendous wrestler. His execution of his moves is terrific. I think Marty has this gimmick down. I think that's what makes him so entertaining. He ends up winning on the distraction from his newly introduced sister, Mariposa, who's played by Melissa, cheerleader Melissa, excuse me. So whenever Mariposa gets in the ring, it's going to be a treat because cheerleader Melissa is one of the best wrestlers on the planet. She ends up kicking Sexy Star in the head post match, and Mac and Marty and Mariposa walk off victorious. But enough of me gushing. What'd you guys think?
This was, this wasn't very long. I mean, it was okay. I sort of enjoyed it for what it was, and it's continuing the storyline. So.
Yeah, you're right. And you know what? I mean, I did enjoy this quite a bit. I mean, it didn't have to be long. I just was entertaining. It was fun. And you're right. I mean, I think that this guy, the Moth, he's just a guy that I was prepared really not to like, to be honest with you. Not to be a fan of it. I think he's doing a good job here. And I think, the introduction of a character that's his sister, who's, of course, honestly, reality, a really talented wrestler herself, it could only mean better things in the future.
Absolutely. We get a nice little video package for Phoenix. We then cut to Lucha Underground's favorite backstage area, the bathroom, where Jack Evans is taking a piss. Drago shows up. There's a fight with nunchucks that breaks out with PJ Black jumping in. Apparently him and Jack are going to be a team now. You get this awesome nunchuck kung fu sequence that you would only ever see in Lucha Underground. And then Aerostar shows up to make the save in like a light up Iron Man suit. It's totally awesome. You have to see this.
You do, and I don't know if anybody listening is a fan of horror movies or just ridiculous B movies in general. I watched this and thought, oh, this is made by Troma. This got to be made by Troma. Nobody else could do this. But of course, Lucha Underground can. I love this. It's just ridiculous, but at the same time, it's pretty fun.
Oh God, I mean, just like I love the fact that it's the whole thing from last season where Aerostar and Drago kind of after the whole having that 5 series, they kind of bonded together, but the suit and everything was insane, and just he comes out of nowhere, and it's Lucha Underground at its finest. Tell you what.
I just kept waiting for the Toxic Avenger just to come out somewhere, and I really was waiting for it.
Maybe next week, Gary. You never know.
Yeah.
God, yeah. Really.
We cut to what is supposed to be a no disqualification match between Cage and Johnny Mundo. However, Taya comes out and says that seeing as Johnny already beat Cage, she's going to be the one to take on Cage. Cage, of course, being the gentleman that he is, decides he's not going to do it until he eats a low blow and a slap to the face. And that sets him off, and he floors her with the sickest clothesline I've seen in a long time. And these two pretty much go nonstop for about 8 minutes probably, before Mundo comes in to run interference, which backfires because Cage no-sells getting hit in the face with 2 beer bottles, which causes Mundo to freak out and bail and toss Taya to the wolves, and Cage finishes it off with a Weapon X, and that's that. And man, Johnny Mundo is just not a nice guy.
No, he's not. You thought he was going to make the save and be a good dude, and then all of a sudden he just leaves her in there to get to just get totally destroyed. And, this is one of those times where, because Cage is a machine and they kept talking about it, this is sort of okay. It isn't a man beating up a woman or whatever, and she's willingly participating in it too, so this did not give me that emotional thing I think they might have wanted, where, oh my god, he's beating up this woman. It just kind of felt like, okay, well, she chose to do this. She kind of paid for it, and Johnny Mundo's a douche.
Yeah, it's works out perfectly for him though, because it makes him in that way it makes him a douche, and it makes him a character that's got a little depth here. I think that it's kind of fun to see this whole thing, and just to see that Lucha Underground allows this type of material to be out there for people to watch. We've talked about it plenty of times in the past, the intergender matches and things like that. But what was fun to me was the fact that, just Cage is just so hard-hitting and just unrelentless. And he is that machine. It's almost like Terminator versus Sarah Connor or something here.
He already has Caitlyn that sort of looks like her to look at every day anyway. So just, it didn't bother him at all.
Nope. He just, next is all he's saying.
Yeah, I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't at least talk about Taya here a little bit, because I think she more than held her own. And I don't know if they were going for that emotional investment you were talking about, Sean. I think they were just trying to effectively debut somebody who has found a lot of success in Mexico, and somebody who, I think she's still currently the Reina de Reinas champion for AAA. And I think that's somebody they have a lot of high hopes for here in Lucha Underground.
I think it's kind of cool, too, the fact that, like you said, she kind of held her own for some points in this match, and it kind of gives other people the illusion that if she can do that against this machine, what can she do against, just anyone else on the roster? So I think it's a positive.
Yeah, she's held the championship I just mentioned for over 572 days.
Wow.
That's... Yeah. So Ivelisse walks out of Katrina's office with Havoc and Angelico wondering if she managed to get their title shot, which she did. However, if they lose the match, they have to walk the open road, as it were, and never come back. And then, of course, it broke down into them saying that somebody goofed here because obviously things aren't going their way, and it's just perfectly fitting for their characters, because obviously, even though they're a team, they still can't get along. We got to the main event after that, Lucha Underground title match here, as Mil Muertes defends against Pentagon Jr. and Prince Puma. This is a 12-minute sprint that will leave you breathless, I think is the best way I can describe this.
Yeah, this was really damn good. It just dives everywhere. Mil Muertes had a turn where he just totally beat both of them. Mil Muertes looked really good, and everybody looked good in this. Vampiro taking shots at Puma on the commentary. Just all this was great. This was one of those it's 12, 13 minutes. But it's a total action-packed over 13 minutes, and it's a great match that you need to go watch.
Definitely, it's a blast. We could sit here and gush about it and gush, but it's one of those that you just got to go see. I think it was very, very entertaining. I think it's something that you just can't miss. That's pretty much all I need to say about it. But I do want to mention the Evil East though thing and that whole promo and I like it. Walk the road. I couldn't help it, but as soon as you said that, I think, man, Evil East should walk out of the office humming that song by Fastball. You know what I'm talking about? They walk down the highway, getting go. You know that song. So I just think of that song all the time. So
I mean, why not? It would probably work here in Lucha Underground.
Yeah. They never go. So. But,
yeah, I mean, after that, Phoenix walks into Katrina's office to cash in the gift of the gods, so he's challenging Mil Muertes next week for the belt. And that's your Lucha.
There you go. It's going to be awesome. So we'll be looking forward to next week, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that. But now, guys, it is time for us to talk some New Japan Cup. That's right. We've been following this, and, of course, you heard some of discussions, I'm sure, on Saturday night when you checked out the New Japan special. But here it is. We're going to talk a little bit now.
Hold on.
King of Sport. New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Alright, so New Japan Cup Finals happening on Saturday morning. So, like I said, we're going to be doing a double shot of a show on that Saturday night with talking about New Japan Cup's final and now I can't talk. These finals that we're about to preview and, of course, Roadblock. So, getting into this card here is the one that always starts the shows, apparently now. Jay White and David Finlay. You kind of know what you're going to get, but it's always some really good action. And they've been telling a nice story with it, too, lately.
Yeah, I mean, David hasn't gotten a pinfall or a victory over Jay yet. I mean, he hasn't beat him. So is this the match where it finally happens? That's why you're watching these now. I mean, you know what these guys are going to do. And, you know, I'm just stoked to see it. I think these guys just work wonderfully together.
Yeah, you know what you're... I mean, the thing is, like you said, it's these two are so good. You kind of already... Even though you know what they're going to do, they somehow are able to sort of surpass it every time. So that's what's so good about it. I mean, Gary, do you...
You know, all I know is that it's something that, you know, interests me because of the fact that, you know, Paul's saying that Finley's never got the pinfall. So, I mean, I think it's about time.
Yeah, so you're saying it's Finlay?
I'll go with Finlay myself.
I think they keep this going and let Jay White get the victory here again.
I'll go with Jay as well. So, after this, we have Jushin Thunder Liger and Juice Robinson against Tiger Mask. 4 and Captain New Japan. Just the total tag team of awesomeness happening here. Not really, but you got one guy that could take a pinfall on either side. I'm going to say Liger and Juice.
I'm with you.
Does Tiger Mask still even have the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title?
Do they even care about the NWA anymore?
Once a year they seem to whenever these two have a match over it. I mean...
I don't know. That's
the only time Tiger Mask is still the champion.
He is?
Yeah, he is still the champion.
Wow.
I'll say Tiger Mask and Captain New Japan get the win here, and I think Tiger probably pins Juice.
All right, fair enough.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll stick with my Liger prediction. You're gonna go with that, Gary?
Yeah, I'm going Liger and Juice.
Hopefully, it's a decent enough match here. So we got Tomohiro Ishii and Yoshihashi of Chaos against Evil and Bushi of Los Ingobernables de Japón. So, you know, these two, I mean, at least Evil and Ishii have that history with each other facing off in the New Japan Cup. So you'd hope that they get to renew a little bit of that. Yoshihashi and Bushi, hopefully Yoshihashi gets to use his little nice run that he's been having. I'll go with it's without Naito, so I think Los Ingobernables can lose here.
I mean, it's also more chaos and Ingobernables again, so more build to that sort of feud that's going on here. I think it'd be really interesting if they let Evil pin Ishii and sort of help position him more for a never openweight title match. So I'll take the bad guys here.
Yeah, I'm with Paul on this. I think those guys can still squeak out a victory here.
I forgot Yoshihashi's taking a pin, so Evil and Bushi are going to win. So we get into the New Japan Cup semifinal matches. Toru Yano against Tetsuya Naito. Yano, not one we thought would be here, but this should be fun because Naito is either not going to fall for his crap or he's going to have Evil and Bushi kind of messing around with Yano.
I mean, what if... Yeah. I mean, the logic says Naito, but there's that part of me that goes, man, what if Naito channels that not caring part of his gimmick and just lays down and lets Yano beat him?
Oh, man.
Forget the finger poke. I'm just going to lay down right here.
I hope he just lays down with a bucket of KFC and says, take
Yeah, he wanted that fried chicken so bad.
Oh, man.
God, how great is this guy? Naito better win. But I would not be shocked at all if he just laid down and let Yano beat him, too.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, very true. I'm going to go with Naito as well. Not just because it's obvious, it's because it just makes too much sense for it not to be him. Like, they've had Yano go this far. I just can't imagine we're going to have Yano against one of the two, and Yano's not winning the New Japan. So it'll be Hiroki Goto against Michael Elgin, rematch of the G1. Oh my lord, this could be awesome.
Yeah, I imagine this is probably the match that sends us into intermission, and we're probably going to need it, because these two are going to beat the bejesus out of each other. With the way they've been going with Goto here, I wouldn't be surprised if they let him beat Elgin at the same rate. I wouldn't be surprised if Elgin wins here either. So, man, this is a toss-up. I'm going to go Goto and just let, they'll have Naito crush him to get his win back. But
it is tough. It's a very hard choice, but, I'm going to lean towards Elgin.
I'm going to say Goto for what Paul said. It makes most sense. Elgin also sort of had a feud for a while with Los Ingobernables, so it would have either way. I think you win here. As for match-wise, you're going to win, and either way, you get something storyline-wise going into that match. So this is going to be interesting, but I think what Paul said is sort of what they're going to do. Goto's going to get so close, even though he has won this thing a bunch of times, and get his heart broken, and especially lose to a guy he already beat earlier, which will make a lot of sense. So after that, you kind of have, your standard bunch of tag matches here, but Katsura Shibata and Ryusuke Taguchi, that should be a pairing. I could totally see Shibata like, no, I'm not going to deal with your BS today. And against Tenkoji, I would imagine that Taguchi just takes the fall here.
I'm still trying to imagine Shibata and Taguchi tagging together. Wow. I'm going to say Tenkoji get the win here, too. They're trying to position, I think, as many teams as possible to challenge Great Bash Heel for the tag title. So I'll say they let Tenkoji go over here.
Yeah, I'll say Tenkoji, too.
And you got Yuji Nagata and Manabu Nakanishi, the ageless ones, against two members of Chaos, the IWGP Heavyweight Champion Kazuchika Okada and Kazushi Sakuraba. Well, I would imagine that Nakanishi would take the fall, but you never know if Sakuraba could lose.
Yeah, I mean, there's something brewing here between Sakuraba and Nagata, I think. So that'll probably get a lot of time to play here. Nakanishi in there with Okada should be a treat, because Okada, obviously one of the best wrestlers in the world. Nakanishi has about as much movement as a tree these days. So how those two are going to work together should be a treat. But I'll Okada and Sakuraba are probably going to get the win here.
Plus, you got Nagata always plays well with Okada.
Very true.
As when they match up together, so
I don't think there's a person in the wrestling universe who Nagata could match up well with.
Very true.
I'll go Team Chaos. I'll go Okada's guy.
So then you got Hiroshi Tanahashi and Great Bash Heel against the Bullet Club B Team, Bad Luck Fale, Tamatonga, and Yujiro Takahashi. I think we know who's winning this.
This would be a really interesting time for them to debut Tonga's mystery partner, maybe have him get a win over Great Bash Heel here. I don't know if that's what they're going to do with Invasion Attack so close to the corner, or around the corner, but maybe they do. So I'll hedge my bets and go with what I'm thinking, and I'll say Bullet Club B Team.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Bullet Club B Team as well.
I've heard that we should not get our hopes up about who Tonga's partner is, but
they got to make us care somehow, though, Sean.
I've heard it's the other Tonga, that long lost brother of his. This is according to Mr. David McDonough, friend of the show. But I don't have a problem with it because I think Micah has had potential, or whatever, Camacho, Micah, whatever you want to call him. He has potential to be good. He just never really got to shine in either one of the places that he was really given. He was in the early days of NXT, and then TNA just wasted him. If you get him in there with his brother and you put him part of the Bullet Club, I mean, he might. He can't be any worse than Yujiro.
That's true.
Setting the bar low there, Sean.
It's not going to be his dad. His dad we saw him and that was it. I mean, we were lucky that he did the pile driver as awesome as he did. I just can't imagine he's gonna be able to do all that.
Yeah. Get him a bicycle. He'll be fine.
Well played, Gary.
I'm just saying,
So, I mean, do you see what I'm saying, Paul, or are you just in that, it's that guy, who cares?
I honestly, I didn't have a problem with Camacho. He's not super exciting in the ring, but maybe you bring him over to New Japan, you let him learn some more, let him learn another side of the coin to the wrestling business, and, maybe him and Tonga have a run in them somewhere, I mean, anything is possible. Never say never when it comes to New Japan.
So speaking of, you got this New Japan Cup final, and you've got either Hiroki Goto or Michael Elgin against Naito. Naito taking this one all the way?
If it's Goto, absolutely. Naito gets his win back. Goto gets to keep being depressed and in losing in a tournament that he's pretty much owned since he started winning it a whole bunch back in 2008. Yeah, I mean, and coming so close again to getting that championship match, only to have it taken away, probably it's going to help him spin out some more. If it's Elgin, I think it's a little bit more of a up in the air, but not by much. I think either way, Naito is your winner here. And then we get to sit back and watch the chaotic ride that he has in store for us. No pun intended.
Oh, man, I hope that is the case. I hope Naito wins. I'm going to root for him. I'm going to say it is him. And I think if he wins, I think we should start a fundraiser, buy him, a lot of chicken.
Kerry's going to keep going with this thing.
I want to get him some chicken so badly. I mean, that's going to have to happen eventually. But yes, no, I'm thrilled. I really do hope that Naito wins this.
I would imagine he wins, and then we'll have to be in a lurch waiting to see whenever he decides to go for that title or whatever.
Yeah.
Or that title shot, sorry.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's it for New Japan Cup final.
All right. Well, here we are, guys. We have a couple more segments on, TNA and a Ring of Honor. So let's go ahead and start with some Impact Wrestling. You have Kurt Angle finishing out his career against Bobby Lashley. And, of course, some tag team champions are crowned. Let's find out who next.
Kurt Angle apparently did meet with Triple H during that, when they were doing the Arnold Classic thing. So.
Uh-oh. Team Angle, baby.
I don't know that has anything to do with that, but
I hope we can pray, huh?
Yeah, let's pray.
TNA Impact Wrestling.
Well, Impact basically was sort of the Kurt Angle retirement show. That's sort of what they wanted it to be about, but they also had wrestling on this show. Dixie Carter coming out, doing the whole thing about Kurt Angle. We had a lot of Kurt Angle, basically, his greatest moments in TNA kind of thing. I did like the fact of Lashley kind of telling Angle at the beginning, like, dude, you're just not ready. You're not ready to face me, man. I am the shit, and you will know. Just... Like, Lashley gave no F's about this at all. Oh, different Lashley. What do you think about this Lashley?
I mean, I thought this was sort of the same Lashley we've always had. Respectful, yet I'm going to murder you. Because that's how the Destroyer Lashley works here in TNA. And I like the nod they gave to Galloway here as sort of like that next guy up. The guy who they sort of have pegged, I think, to fill Kurt's spot as the consummate wrestler. Maybe not has everything that Kurt has, but I certainly think the guy that they need to fill that role right now.
This whole opening segment and everything that took place here was fine. It's understandable. Angle's leaving, goodbye, and all of that worked fine. I kind of like the whole Lashley thing. I think it made sense, show that, he's going to be the next guy. Like Paul just said, Galloway is going to be that next, upstanding guy that's going to take Angle's place. So it all kind of makes sense here. And, it's a good kind of farewell.
Yeah, for sure. So we move on to having the first match of the evening, which is a King of the Mountain title match, which means you have to deal with the cluster that is that damn King of the Mountain title match stipulation and all that with the penalty box and whatever. Eric Young, Bram, Will Ospreay, Jimmy Havoc, and Big Damo. This had some cool moments in it. Ospreay was certainly... This is not the match you need to watch if you want to... There are other matches that have nothing with TNA you need to go watch if you want to know about Will Ospreay before he shows up at Invasion Attack. Or the WrestleMania shows, for that matter. But, yeah. I mean, a lot of people falling off ladders and doing some crazy stuff.
It had EY in it. I'm not entirely thrilled. And I was hopeful they were going to give us more of the English guys here, Ospreay, Havoc, and Big Damo. But especially you want to capitalize, I think, off of Damo's good performance last week, and they didn't do that here, and that was disappointing. I think EY retains here, which woohoo. But yeah, it wasn't bad. This isn't anything super special,
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And Damo was a guy that I really was hoping to get a better showcase here. I really loved him last week. I thought, man, this guy can really do something here. Just kind of disappointed with that whole situation. And then, Ospreay was fine, got his in. But at the same point, you just kind of figured, okay, it's EY. He's going to get his. And, of course, he does. I don't know. It was okay. That's about where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. They should have done a lot more with that. Jimmy Havoc got a little bit of a 2-week storyline with Rosemary, and then everybody else, Damo got the match with EY. That was it. And we didn't even get to see Ospreay's match because he got squashed on Explosion because he signed with New Japan. But, it is what it is. We move on to basically the Miracle, Mike Bennett, after Maria had kind of confronted Dixie Carter backstage, and Dixie's all about actions speaking louder than words. I don't know, Dixie, you spoke a lot of words in your time in TNA. It's kind of the pot calling the kettle there, but either way, we have this thing with Maria and Bennett. It continues the thing with Drew Galloway, and Bennett kind of tries to tell Galloway, hey, dude, go be a stooge and get me Dixie Carter. And Galloway's like, well, nope, not having any of this. So, yeah.
I really enjoyed this segment. I think everybody was really on their game. Bennett saying that Kurt Angle ducked him was wonderful. Galloway saying that Bennett needs to stop running away like a little bitch and then walk straight towards Maria after that. Just these clever little bits here and there. I really enjoyed this. I thought this was great.
Yeah, it's fun, and you know what? I'm getting more used to Michael Bennett to where I can, sit here and say, yeah, he's definitely worth the time for the TV time he's getting. To be honest with you, and Maria's always great. She showcases her abilities all the time. So, really, this was fun. I did like some of the subtle jokes, and the way Galloway is involved here. To me, it's a solid feud.
Yeah, this has been something they've kind of been doing ever since that Feast or Fire thing, and I've sort of enjoyed it. This is kind of being a slow build to this match they're going to have, and totally down with that. And it's sort of involving Dixie, too, so I don't know that I'm cool with Drew Galloway sort of being like the Dixie protector or anything, but whatever.
Oh, man.
So after that, we also had a bunch of different people like thanking Kurt Angle and stuff throughout the show. I don't think I really need to talk about that so much. Gail Kim and Jade, I thought it wasn't the best of matches. As far as, this is not one of those things that you need to watch if you want to just watch this great women's match or anything, but for a first time, them going at each other with this, pretty good.
Yeah, I would certainly say above average, for sure. I think this is also the first time they've ever wrestled each other, which is, I think, something else to keep in mind. Solid match. I was fine with the finish, and it is what it is.
Yeah, it worked great, just for, what we expected. I don't know that I walked into this thinking it was going to be an amazing match and it was going to blow me over. No, I thought it would be kind of like this, and I think they're going to have better matches in years to come. But right now at this point, I think it's, pretty good.
So then we get the tag team title match between the Wolves and Beer Money, and they were certainly hyping this up beforehand. This is where, of course, Davey Richards gets hurt here, tearing his ACL, so he will not be involved any longer after this. But hey, Beer Money win the titles, and they sure as hell delivered here.
Injury and all, this is still one heck of a match. Probably one of TNA's better offerings, match for match this year. Say what you will about James Storm, but the dude can wrestle fairly all right. And, the Wolves and the rest of the Beer Money contingent,
Look at Paul trying to not give James Storm any credit.
Oh,
don't blame me, guys. I'm just full of hatred over here.
It's great though. Hey, you know what? At least he's consistent with it. Hey, what do you think?
Yeah, it was a great match. It really was. It surprised me. Yeah, sure, both tag teams are great, but I really don't know if I expected a whole lot out of this. I just didn't, and over-exceeded for me, so I was very pleased with it. I'm completely happy with Beer Money being the new champions. Of course, you would hate to say, well, it's by default, but it's not. I mean, those guys definitely deserved it, and so we'll see what happens. I do kind of feel bad for the American Wolves. I mean, injuries are pretty consistent with those guys, and man, just another hit to them.
Yeah, constantly with these guys. I feel so bad. If it's not Davey, it's Eddie. It's just total stuff going on with them that isn't great. Mike Bennett has a thing with Kurt Angle where he kind of tells him, well, whatever Lashley does to you, you deserve. But, Bennett wanted to be the guy that beat him, but Kurt Angle blew that chance. As if Kurt Angle just wanted Mike Bennett to be the guy that beats him. Well, I guess Kurt Angle has something if he decides to come back to TNA. I don't know. So we have Grado coming in, and he has video proof. But Jesse Goddard, Eli Drake interrupt. Yeah, these two bimbos that we all wanted to see. And they eventually attack Grado, but Mahabali Shera comes out. Oh yeah, guys.
Good God.
Shera shuffle. Oh man.
Man. It was a thing, guys. It was a thing.
I love how that's all Paul has to say about it. I mean, you got the most handsome wrestler in TNA history probably standing in front of you with Gato. And then you got, one of the probably the best, dancers ever, coming out to help him. So, I mean, this is a solid, 5-star segment, right? I mean, come on. No, in all honesty, this was okay. I wanted to see the video more than I wanted to see a Grado beatdown or whatever, but it is what it is. We have to wait all the way till next week to see that video, guys, and that really hurt. It really hurt bad.
Yeah. Then we go into the last match of Kurt Angle's TNA career, or so they say here. Bobby Lashley gets out of the grapevine ankle lock, which nobody gets out of, and spears him. Even spears Galloway, I think, even. And then EC3 comes down to have a stare down with him. So, you have Lashley and Matt Hardy sort of being your heels. You got EC3, and Galloway, your kind of faces in the lieu of Kurt Angle being gone, and of course Jeff Hardy returning next week to take on Eric Young, guys. He's excited. The creatures are coming back.
Oh man.
Color me excited, guys. Either way.
Wait for that face title to come back. That's what we all want.
Oh, God. Lord knows I need another face title in my life.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. I watched that Wrestle Kingdom 5 terrible match with Naito and Jeff Hardy. My God. Jeff Hardy was on some serious shit. Seriously. God, wow. I mean, whatever he was I guess he was heel Jeff Hardy or something at that point, because he was wearing this button-up shirt and all this stuff. He still had the stupid makeup, but it's just, I don't know. It was so bad.
Wow, jeez.
And it was a young Naito. He was still in No Limit and everything. So.
I guess we'll have to see what Jeff Hardy does coming up next, and I'll say this, EY doesn't get enough credit. I think that guy needs to start voicing some TNA DVD sets.
Oh my God, no!
Why do you hate us, Gary?
That's one way I will never watch that set.
So if you heard that he was the guy that did all the narration for the AJ Styles TNA DVD,
no, not watching it. Not watch. You seriously could listen to that for 4 hours, Gary?
I would just have to drink a bunch of barbecue sauce straight and try to mimic it.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see. But no, I don't think I could. So, all right, guys. Well, that is TNA Impact for you. We are going to get on out of there and talk some Ring of Honor next. And, of course, don't forget, we're going to crown a Superstar of the Week. But we'll be right back with Ring of Honor.
Oh, sorry. She decided, now to talk to me.
All right, Paul.
All right. So before we get the opening video package that we traditionally get with Ring of Honor, Dalton Castle cuts an interview. He is hungry and craves victories. He should really talk to Ryback. And so he'll get what he wants tonight whenever he takes on Christopher Daniels. Not at all gay or anything.
Just like his mustache.
Not at all.
Stop hating on that mustache.
I love it. No, I love everything about Dalton Castle. And I'm not meaning that in a gay way. Anyway, let's move on.
Hey, Gary has that quickly. Get out of that.
It was a great way to start the show. I was very up on it. Man, I don't mean up on it within the other context.
Gary is on it with the word choice here. Man. So opening match of the evening, Top Prospect Tournament Finals. Brian Fury takes on Leo Rush. This is pretty gosh darn good for what it is. Total style difference here. Brian Fury's the veteran in trying to use his experience over Leo, who's the plucky, super springy babyface. Leo Rush ends up getting the victory, I think, with the Spanish Fly, and is, getting that contract now.
I was very happy about this. I thought that, these guys put on a good match here. It was fun. Rush deserved it. Just this whole tournament, everything about him is exciting. Sure, it's about the flippies. It's about the spring in his step, the way he does things. He's got personality, if you ask me. It's not overwhelming, but he's got enough for me that I think that it's going to be a solid thing with this guy, especially being a part of the Ring of Honor roster. I just think he's got some places to go. Fury himself, I've really enjoyed him as well in this tournament. I love the fact that he's a veteran. He's a guy that's trained all these people that are already on the Ring of Honor roster and, people around the world. So I think this is cool. I like the storyline. I think everything that built up to this tournament was fun. I'm just thrilled for Theo Rush, though. I think it was a great deal.
Yeah, I'd be totally okay with Brian Fury sticking around, too. Ring of Honor, I think, could really use a guy like that who's been around the business for a while and can sort of work with some of these younger guys they have in the lower card or maybe even the mid card,
Yeah, you mentioned Action Jackson last week, too. There's some guys, honestly, in this tournament that really deserve to stick around.
Mm-hmm. I could not agree with you more, Gary. Next up, we have Moose taking on Congo. It's pretty much a squash that goes on way too long and isn't really all that wonderful. So I don't know how much you really want to talk about it, Gary, but it was a thing.
It was definitely a thing. The only thing I care about talking about is we've seen the Congo gimmick quite a bit, but, not just Congo's a different part of the world. He's not, Samoan, but it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, savage character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Nothing to write home about. And, yeah. Young Bucks cut a promo. There's going to be a tag team gauntlet that they're going to be in next week, which that'll be fun. There's clips shown from Mike Posey and his crew in the ring running down Cheeseburger. And then, of course, Cheeseburger gets to go all like Super Saiyan, run wild with palm strikes. It's awesome, especially if you're a Cheeseburger fan like Gary is.
Oh, yeah. That was brilliant. I loved every second of it. I just, once again, thank you, Liger, for, adding some cheese to that cheeseburger. Brilliant.
You got to give the guy something, I guess, Gary.
Yeah, you do, man. I mean, he needed a little sauce to make him spicy, and that's what Liger did for him. So it was fun. You know, I don't care how silly it was. To me, it was still fun, and you know, it stopped that guy from rapping.
That's true. Cedric Alexander is supposed to be taking on Adam Page, who is in the ring, but BJ Whitmer runs in and attacks Page. Alexander helps him beat him down until Gresham comes in to make the save, which sets up a tag match that we're going to have coming up in Philly, I think, this weekend. And nobody in the live crowd cared at all about this, so tells you how much they love this BJ Whitmer Adam Page feud they got going.
Yeah, they don't. And, you know, I guess, like I said, I mean, I'm not, like, in love with it, but I just think that Adam Page is a good young star, and I think he deserves, you know, a little credit. And, you know, Whitmer's a good heel. I don't see why you wouldn't be excited about this, but okay, you know, I don't know.
I mean, I agree with you on all fronts. I just, the things we've gotten from them so far, I don't think have been particularly, you know, stand up and applause worthy or anything. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that's really, I think, really grabbed you about this feud other than the decade, which I think, you know, lost steam once they lost, oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name already. He signed with WWE to work with promos and stuff like that.
Oh, man. I'm trying to think myself. I cannot think as well. Oh, well. I want to say it start with an R or something.
Jimmy Jacobs.
There you go, Jimmy Jacobs. You're right.
Go brain, go. We get highlights from the boys in the Young and Bruiser match last week. So that's still a thing. We have Silas Young on commentary. So now it's time for a main event with Christopher Daniels and Dalton Castle going one-on-one. Lots of distractions, all sorts of run-ins that essentially end with Christopher Daniels going over in about 11 minutes. It's really nothing all that special.
Really not. Kind of bummed out about it, honestly. I thought it was going to be a better match than that. It just did not add up to that. You know, Dalton Castle on his back. I thought that was not the right way to go. But that's okay. It's what it is. I mean, Daniels is a good heel. So that's about it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, I mean, we're also, Castle and Young are going to have a fight without honor, which is essentially no DQ match sometime soon. So hopefully that'll finally be the end of this never-ending feud.
Please let it be. It needs to be the end. So, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
That is your Ring of Honor.
You're right, it is. And now it is time for us to head on out and talk about crowning a Superstar of the Week, guys. We have an interesting list here, and we may actually have a guy on the list that is going to get a lot of points that I don't think has been on it yet. I'm not sure. We'll have to find out next.
Superstar of the Week.
All
right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and do this thing. Let's start out with 1 point. Sami Zayn. That's right, guys. He had a pretty awesome week this week. Not only did he have a great match on NXT, but he also got to beat up on the little Kevin Owens on Monday Night Raw. What do you think, Paul?
It seems almost criminal for him to be this low, but when you have so much other stuff going on in the week with title changes and terrific matches, and I mean, there's a lot of guys who I think could have gotten the point here. Leo Rush could have made the list, but Sami Zayn, of course, you know, just absolutely tremendous. The major match on NXT, the run-in with Kevin Owens, the possibility of him and Owens even being a one-on-one match still is a wonderful thing to dream about.
And with 2 points, we got the New Day, and they, had a pretty awesome week themselves, right, Sean?
Yeah, they did. Winning, retain those tag titles against Y2AJ. I mean, in a great match. Why not?
And with 3 points, Beer Money gets on this list. They retained they gained, not retained, but gained the TNA World titles back. once again for I don't know how many times, but they did it, and congratulations to them. But, Paul, I mean, this was a really good match. You kind of talked about it earlier.
It's funny that I get to be the one to talk about beer money, because really this is 3 points for Bobby Roode in my book. Now, James Storm just happens to get the residual. But, good on them. They won the belts.
He's just kind of like the fingernail of Bobby Roode. He's just kind of there. Right?
He just happens to get 3 points along with Bobby Roode, yes.
Yeah, I get it. And at 4 points, Samoa Joe. He is the victor of that NXT match we talked about earlier, the 3 falls. And, here it goes. Sean, I'm not sure if he's got on the list yet, but, I mean, that's a pretty good match and a pretty good number of points for him.
No, I don't think he's been on this list yet. So, first time for everything and first time for Samoa Joe. Hopefully that's more points for him.
Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe actually got 2 points together for another number 1 contender match
right.
they had.
Duh.
Back in.
So, that'll be 6 for Joe.
It is indeed 6 for Joe.
There you go.
It is, however, Sami Zayn. Oh, no, not Sami Zayn. Somebody else had their first appearance on here, though. We're getting there.
Yeah. And with 5 points and our Superstar of the Week, Mil Muertes won this week, Superstar of the Week.
That is your first time for Mil Muertes.
That is your first appearance, and that puts him into a giant block of 5 points that we have going here. But, yeah, I mean, if you're not into the long, drawn-out match that we got on NXT, I would say that Mil and Pentagon Jr. and Prince Puma put on equal effort in just 12 minutes. So if you like the fast rush of action, that's totally more your style. I would go with that one. But I would put both those matches the same par. And congratulations to Mil Muertes for retaining the championship as well.
Yeah. Anything, Sean, you wanted to say about that?
Hey, I mean, Paul kind of said it, but that match is great. You need to go watch it.
Yeah, for sure. So, and congratulations, Superstar of the Week, Mil Muertes, and we're excited for him, and hopefully more to come. Well, guys, that rounds out our show. That's pretty much it. We've had a great one. Lots of great topics to talk about. Some pretty good show reviews we've had here. And just a great time overall. So I was pretty thrilled with it. Now it's kind of sadly time to get on out of here. But we do want everybody to know we are going to have a special show for you on Saturday night. That's right. We have a W2M Extra coming your way. And that is going to be live on Saturday night. Once again, if you don't stay up super late, you can always check it out on Sunday on demand on the W2M network. That's right. You can find it right there. Just go. If you're not subscribed to the W2M network, hey, this is your time. After you get to listening to this, go subscribe. It's going to be there Sunday for you guys to go check out. And we'll be talking not only New Japan Cup, but we'll be talking Roadblock and everything that went down. You're not going to want to miss that show. As well as we'll be back next Thursday with more to come and more to talk about. And you don't want to miss that show for sure. And, just to let everybody know, we have some other shows that will be coming your way this week. And, Sean, I'll let you go ahead and run down a few things that you may want to mention.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully Randall has a new TWE After Dark after he missed last week. Don't know if the Running Wild guys are going to wait till after Roadblock or if they are going to go ahead and resume their normal schedule of like Saturday morning, afternoonish, which would mean they're before Roadblock. And Wrestling Unwrapped, we're doing WrestleMania 17 or X7, whichever one you want to call it. Thought of by most of the wrestling populace as the greatest WrestleMania ever, happening on April 1st, 2001. So you're definitely going to want to check that out. Check out, see if we really give it that phantom, number 10 rating or not, and definitely what we thought about all the matches and everything. So that should be definitely some fun. And we'll be doing, I think, a Video Games to the Max on Friday afternoon. So by Friday night, it should be there talking about all the things that have been happening this week in games and entertainment. And we'll be doing our Football to the Max right after this. Free agency, my God, everything has been happening. We'll try to corral it all and talk about the first 2 days. And hopefully nothing ridiculous happens before the next time we have to do a show, which I'm sure it will. And we'll also have we have Jimmy Christopher from the Raw Reaction talking about his Tennessee Titans. So he will be on there. And we have a person that the only time I ever talked to him was to do this Jaguars interview that I did. Thanks to Gary and his family for setting that up so we could get the interview. And I think that kind of covers everything.
A lot of great stuff coming your way, people, and you don't want to miss it. We hope that you get a chance to hear it all. And we're going to have, some great stuff coming your way pretty soon here next week, so you don't want to miss any of that. Just to let everybody know, we want to thank our partnership with LastWordOnSports.com and, of course, FormulaOneMania.com. Both sites are amazing. You need to go check them out. And, of course, the W2M Network is our home, and we love it, and we hope you go subscribe to it. And, a lot of the great things for you to enjoy there. So, without that, anything else to say, I just want you guys to know, I want you to always remember, if you're not living life to the max,
you're not living life at all.
You know it.
Peace.
Later.